And we are live. We are back. I'm Manny. I'm with Cheech. This is the Cheech and Manny Music Show. Today we have a very great topic for you all, and hopefully it will provide you an opportunity to learn about, I think, what a genre of rock music that kind of has been forgotten, but its legacy is ingrained in a lot of people, especially today, and especially today's music as well. What am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about my favorite genre of rock, progressive rock. I know a lot of you may be wondering, hey, what's rock or what's progressive rock? Right? Yes, progressive rock. What is it? We're gonna delve. So similar to what we did with our new wave of British heavy metal episode, which it was our very first episode of our podcast last year.
I believe it's a year, but this is going to be way more in depth.
Yeah,
I have a 23 encyclopedia. I should put this out as a book. We should put it
yeah.
out as a book on prog rock
Oh, oh
that I wrote.
yeah. Oh yeah. We're definitely gonna be working on a book. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about progressive rock. We're gonna look at its ages, because yes, it went through stages and ages,
Hmm.
and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two, and you'll go out and listen to some of these bands. I'm really excited because, apart from my own musical interest, I think progressive rock is one of the greatest genres. I know, it's funny, the rock critics, in the 70s hated prog rock, right? The rock
Yeah.
critics and Rolling Stone.
In America, they praised it in London, in England.
Yes, yes,
London, like
that's true.
especially two spots, Kent, London. I mean, Kent, England, and London
Yeah,
were the scenes for early, I'm talking early prog rock, you know.
that's true. And
So,
it reminds me of the magazine Melody Maker. It
yeah,
was famous, that was the premier magazine for rock music, but particularly also it gave special mention of the early progressive rock bands. I agree with you though. And but it's funny because I was watching somewhere that the reason why, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I guess you're into metal too, because progressive rock will
it's
have
all linked.
no,
Prog
it'll
rock
have its
is the
influence on metal music, believe it or not. So for those of
prog
you,
rock is the tree. It links to every kind of music. It even links to Boston. It links to Journey. You know,
yeah.
it links to Cheap Trick. It links to every kind of rock music out there. I would even say there's some elements in AM Gold it can get proggy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Some weird anything that's
Oh, by the way, for our
out there.
viewers out there, AM Gold is yacht rock. So
Yes,
she came up with
I
that term,
know.
AM Gold.
Yeah, well, for the old timers that are like me, they'll know AM Gold was a CD that we all bought in
It's
in
kind
the
of funny because
90s.
I didn't know that, but I knew that after our AM Gold episode, but that is such an inside thing.
Yeah, you have to be a old fogey like me to
Yeah,
remember AM Gold.
but for those of
But
you
but
yacht
it's
rock,
it links to every kind of music.
yeah,
Prog rock links to,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
The influence is deep. Yep. And it's funny because it's kind of versus because rock and roll has its origins in African American black music, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So what ends up happening is that rock and roll essentially is, people say, the white man's or person's expression of that sound that they heard
yeah.
from the black musicians. But the difference here, and I think it's interesting, similar to jazz, where
Hmm.
jazz took a lot of like classical elements
Yeah.
but really like develop its own, man, genre, um i- uh musical expressions, inventions. Prague is going to do something similar. So
And Prague is different because blues is in prog rock. Blues is everywhere, but it's not a big thing. Blues is not
I
like
would
a
argue,
huge
Cheech, that
influence.
blues is not in prog rock.
No, I mean you can hear it in Yes, in Steve Howe and stuff like that in his playing. You can hear it in some of the
And I'm
guitar
assuming you're
players
talking about like the
solos.
blues, the 12 bars blues sounds.
No, 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 like a blues scale or something like,
Okay, so
you
okay.
can hear it in the guitar players. They definitely incorporate some type of blues, but it's not an element like it was in Led Zeppelin,
It's
you
funny.
know.
I don't hear it in Yes, but I could be wrong. What I do hear is the influence of the classical composers.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
Now
what I
blue,
hear. That's what takes
yeah,
over.
blues
So
is like
Mozart,
I
Bach.
meant only in the guitar riffs. There's definitely bluesy influence. That's it. Only on the guitar players. It's not. you know.
And you know what's funny? That's interesting. I don't hear that. So maybe I'll probably listen carefully. And I also hear the influence of jazz guitar.
Jazz and classical and two main composers, Bela Bartok and Stravinsky.
Hmm.
Those and Mussorgsky.
Yep.
You know, check those composers out if you are
Yeah.
into classical music because
So
they're, you
already
know.
we probably lost half our viewers. Already. Yeah,
These are
yeah.
tw
Dude, when we do with Prague, ladies and gents, we're dealing with like 20-minute songs. We're dealing with epic like albums.
yeah,
Like it gets
yeah.
it's even like there's a word I love, proggy. Like I
Yeah.
love the more proggy, the better. And it's weird. Things are getting
Listen,
weird.
I'm gonna tell you a secret, you know. Put on Gentle Giant's first album, you will get laid. Not.
I'm not gonna lie, you know what's funny about that? Because and again, I like to think actually it's fascinating and just a quick thing and then we'll jump in because this is
Yeah.
sort of like the intro. This will be the intro, right? We're
Yeah.
known for our divergent paths. We take like 1 hour. We should start a band and you know how they have those like instrumental excursions where we'll just go
Oh
like
man, we would be like the Grateful Dead, I think,
oh
if
man,
we
and
were
people go
there.
like, okay, can you get back to this song? Hold on. And then like
Yeah.
2 hours of jamming. One more. But it's fascinating because you're right. Rock, like for example, Led Zeppelin, I think pulled in the
Yeah, yeah.
the girls and the girls got dance. I always say that Led Zeppelin invented dance rock. That's just my my
Oh yeah, yeah.
my my idea. If you if you let's say you got Foxtrot, you got a lady friend, you drop the needle, man.
Ain't
That
happening.
doesn't do it. Wait, if that doesn't do it, I don't know what will. But yeah.
No, maybe in England in the 70s it would have, but not, I
No,
mean,
but it's fascinating. But Cheech,
put
it's
on Tarkus and see what happens.
oh man, yeah. Show that lady the album cover. You,
Woo!
woo. No, but it's funny because Prague, yeah, I say it's very masculine. There's nothing really
Totally.
feminine, and I always say that. I know I might get hate for this, but for example, like philosophy is a very masculine endeavor.
Hmm.
So in Prague, there's like the male brain is just like full. It's like male music. That's the
Yeah.
it's
Oh
that's
yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
and I'm not saying there are girls out there that don't love Prague or whatever or
Yeah.
get off it, but 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 Prague is very fascinating. It is I think is one of music's and rock music one of the most highest art. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and we're going to be talking about a lot of the classic albums, but before we do that, let's take our time machine.
Well, I think that Prague is an extension of where you have Rococo, Baroque, classical,
Well,
romantic,
that's what I was saying, and
20th century
no,
music.
and we were talking about this that it's funny, and I also read somewhere who is listening to classical music nowadays. No one's going to their
I
concerts.
mean,
No, no, it's fascinating. Who is
yeah,
actually going, right?
it's
Who is
still
actually
out there. Like I follow Juilliard on
no, but
Instagram.
in your circle, no one listens to
Oh,
classical
nobody. But
music. So it's
no.
fascinating. The
Yeah.
prog rock musicians, I'll be honest with you, maybe more people listened to classical music back in the days, maybe.
Of
Uh,
course it did. Yeah, yeah, I think
yeah,
so
but the
because
prog
people
musicians
listen. Yeah.
were
I
listening
think
very carefully.
after 1940 Stravinsky, Charles Ives, Schoenberg, who's the other guy that Phil Lesh loves? I can't think of his name. These modern day 20th century composers, they stopped around like 1930, 40. By the 50s, they really weren't out there. Zappa was listening to these people, obviously, but it ended for 20 years. There was no really good classical original. Think about it. After 1940, after Charles Ives, Stockhausen was another guy. There really wasn't. Oh God, who's the other guy? I can't think of his name. There was a modern guy in the 60s, but it was all avant-garde. It was insane avant-garde. So I feel like Philip Glass is a guy who came out with Einstein on the Beach. So it was coming out there, but it stopped.
But
And
but
prog
honestly
rock,
speaking, but it got even worse because no one listens to classical music. What
no.
I'm trying to tell you is that the progressive artists, they were
Yeah,
listening, and they transitioned a lot of that
yeah.
into the rock form.
Yeah, and I think it almost took off as an extension of classical music.
I would say no, no, no.
In a
I would say so, and that's
yeah,
why a lot of, for example, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that the people that love like the old school rock and roll, they're not gonna
yeah,
dig this because old school rock and roll built on like what the black musicians and African Americans they
yeah,
developed. They build off that, and for them, it's about energy. It's about like that that catharsis, that the rhythm, the beat. But Prague is more cerebral, and I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
and we have to mention Rush. I think that's why it was one of the reasons why the critics hated them,
Oh
because
yeah,
they got too cerebral. So they're like, "Yo, this music is not getting the girls in." They're
yeah.
definitely, we don't want to listen to a 20-minute song about the Dionysian Apollonian,
Oh
conflict.
yeah,
And
yeah.
no, but for the person that's locked in, cerebral, philosophical,
Hmm.
theological, psychological, you're gonna dig it. And I
Yeah,
can't wait when we talk because we gotta. But anyway, the point of all this is let's go back. Let's go
yeah.
back to the beginning of things.
And I gotta say, for me, growing up in the '70s, in the heart of this, I heard
Oh yeah,
this.
you grew up. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you experienced the wave of
yeah.
like the
I
rock.
had going for the one with Dynasty by Kiss when it came out with 2112. I had my parents had Trilogy by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So like
And I told
I
you my
didn't.
no, and I told you my story. My dad was obsessed with the song In the Beginning. And it's great 'cause he
Yeah.
taught me that, and he knows Emerson, Lake and Palmer all the way from Guatemala. You can't even make this up.
But the funny thing is, like when we were listening to Emerson and Palmer, we were listening to Lucky Man. We were listening to Still You Turn Me On and all these songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then when it got to the crazy Carnival 9 and all this shit, I was like, wow, this is insane. Like what is this? But I loved it. I was attracted to it. And then fast forward to when I was in sixth grade and I met my friend Scott Harper, we just got insane into prog with everything else because Deep Purple also falls into prog if you think
They
about it.
got they got influenced by that English sensibility. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these bands did. So like I went through a whole prog phase when I was in about sixth grade. I bought the four bands that we're going to talk about all around. Genesis, I was not a huge fan of.
No, I think early Janis, I think what year was this, Cheech?
For me, it was 1980
Well, I
when I
was
was in
gonna say,
sixth
I
grade.
think, could you correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll talk about this when we hit Genesis. You were influenced by the Phil Collins stuff, and I don't
I
think,
was well, I was influenced by Duke, Abacab. Then I went back.
right,
I was the opposite with Genesis.
right,
Then I bought Lamb Lights Down on Broadway and Foxtrot and was
right.
like, "Is this the same band?" I
Yeah,
was
right. It's
very confused.
confusing, and that is their most. I would say, it's just my opinion, but I think Duke, definitely 80s sensibility, pop
Oh
sensibility,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but it is the last of their like kind of like prog rock where they had a
yeah,
conceptual album. Um,
yeah.
Duke's Travels and Duke End is probably one of the best instrumentals. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
also the beginning, the first track when you listen to Duke, one of the greatest openers, and um, it's fantastic. But yeah, but I can see what you mean because then Phil Collins was dominating with In the Air Tonight.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're
I
like,
had.
and be honest, was this music in your age group like cool back then, or
Oh hell yeah,
okay,
Abacab. We loved it. We loved There Must Be Some Misunderstanding, Abacab, and then the greatest song of all time by Genesis, in my opinion, No Reply at All. And I have a whole story about Mike
yeah,
Rutherford. When we talk about there's the giant bass players in prog rock. Now he's not known as
he's
Chris
a
Squire,
he's a
but
multi-instrumentalist, yeah, but bass
he is a
player.
super bass player that people need to go back to Foxtrot and really listen to. He's using a fretless bass. He's using an eight-string bass. He's doing things that guys weren't doing. That's what
Yeah,
made
Mike
Mike Rutherford a very unique
Mike
prog bass player.
Mike Rutherford is legendary, and
Yeah.
I did not know. I thought he was always the guitar player, but I
Yeah.
didn't know. And
No.
like, anyway, the point is, we'll
Well, he
talk.
was a guitar player later on. I think he
No,
was he
I
turned
know
into
because
like an
I got
ELP.
exposed to that when I was doing my
Yeah.
research. I realized that they had two other guitarists, and
Yeah.
he was he pulled bass duties, and then but he's a multi. I think at one point he has a twin. guitar, bass, and
Guitar
guitar
and bass.
in one
Yeah.
song. So, brilliant
And
musician.
I wonder if I think that's where Getty got the idea from.
I
Because Getty had that.
honestly, dude, I'll be honest with you. Rush, especially early Rush, um, is Genesis and Yes combined. That's the best way I can describe them.
Yeah, I agree. I
Strange
agree.
lyrics, and when I say strange, it's because it wasn't like you listen to Foxtrot. You drop The Watcher of the Sky. There's no song like it on the radio.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's
I know.
nothing, and what they're referring to is like God and it's influenced by Christianity and ideas of the Watcher in the sky, right? And at the
Yeah.
same time, also weird sci-fi too, because there's a sci-fi element, which is Rush,
Thought-provoking lyrics. Yeah.
which is what
There's
Rush is going to do with 2112, the religious
and
space elements.
like bands like Gentle Giant were doing that. They were using
Yeah, yeah, they
philosophy, and they were making you think. And
Gentle Giant, Gentle Giant is no one really, except the true
no,
punk rock bands, no one talks about Gentle Giant. Like, but they were huge.
they're
They were
they're
major.
in my top out of the four. Gentle Giant is five.
I was
Gentle
gonna
Giant
say,
is five.
I sent you a track. I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna listen to more Gentle Giant because, of course, I have my own favorites. But
It's a tough listen. It's definitely when I heard Images and Words, by Dream Theater, I said, "Yep, I know where these guys got their influence
yeah,
from." A band called Camel and a band called Gentle Giant. And I
yeah,
had that album
yeah,
when I was a kid, and I remember looking at the Gentle Giant, the big giant face on there, and putting it on and being like, like, what is this? I'm like 8 years
experience.
old,
Yeah,
you know. Um, so like I was all over the map as a kid. I would be listening to Candyman by Sammy Davis Jr. and then put Gentle Giant on and then put Kiss Alive on. And then my father's cranking up doo-wop in the other room and my mom's listening to the Beatles, it was a crazy
oh, that's
musical,
great.
you
You're
know.
bombarded by great music. I love
I
it.
was, thank God. I was, thank God. But yeah, let's jump into it.
Wait, Cheech, hold on. I'm gonna pause here. Hold on.
Okay.
So you just told me you got off the phone with our boy Silky Joe.
Yeah, we took our little break. You had to do something, and now we're gonna be back in the Prague. Yeah, me and Joe,
How's he doing?
we're doing good. We have our Thursday phone calls. Got to get him back on the show. We still got
Well,
the
he needs to
top.
talk about because he saw Led Zeppelin
Hmm.
and he saw someone else.
Well, he saw one of the bands. Well, I don't know. He saw Yes. He saw a lot of prog bands too. You
It'd
know,
be great to get his take on it because I don't think he's like a prog rock fan, but he appreciates them.
he loves Yes, and he loves Renaissance.
Okay.
Um,
I'll be honest, I don't even know what Renaissance is.
yeah, they're a medieval prog rock band
Whoa. Yeah, it sounds.
from the 70s.
Hmm.
Yeah, so shout out to Silky Joe, and this prog episode is dedicated to you because you make it to the very end, and we start talking crazy.
Joe, yeah, Silky Joe knows. He's a true fan. True
Yep.
fan and true podcaster with us. He's like the
Yeah.
third co-host.
And they said we got to get Silky Joe on what are we on now? What's the other channel? We got to get a Zeppelin episode up on that. So Silky Joe could be on
Yeah.
iTunes.
Oh yes, yes. For all of viewers out there, follow us on Spotify. I'm gonna start
Oh,
like
is it Spotify, right? I get it
Spotify.
mixed up.
Yeah,
Spotify.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna start to upload our episodes there so you can listen on headphones.
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah.
'cause this is a YouTube podcast, but definitely there'll be that option as well. All
Which
right,
is good.
so
All right.
let's continue. Let's go back to before prog rock was progressive rock.
Yeah.
What's going on here? What we got?
So we're going into, as I like to call, prehistoric, things. There was prehistoric Rush, there was prehistoric everything, that we've done. So prehistoric prog rock. It's very fascinating. First, I'm going to give a definition for our viewers out there who may not know what prog rock is, So prog rock is a subgenre of rock music characterized as ambitious compositions, experimental structures, and influence from classical jazz and folk, hard rock as well. Number one, complex structures. Songs often avoid the standard verse chorus bridge format. featuring extended instrumental passages, complex song structures, and formal classical influence in jazz. And the musicians are formally trained and studied. A lot of them went to conservatories. Like
Mm.
an example, Rick Wakeman studied at the Royal Academy of Music, which
Right.
that's where
Right.
like a
And,
cellist would go. That's going to be in an
and,
orchestra.
and I will say that is a very important detail,
Yeah.
especially for the keyboard players.
Yes. They all studied at those kind of
A-
schools.
a-
Emerson,
a-
Tony Kaye.
And I think the exception, again, sorry, Stokey Joe, I gotta mention a Rush reference, but Getty, I think, is an exception, which is odd because he didn't start off with the synthesizers and
No.
keys, but then later embraced them. And he became a world-class musician.
Oh yeah. Well, Getty's a musical genius. Like I think it's amazing to me. Getty must have known how to play keys a little bit
Yeah.
because he picked up the keys on Farewell to Kings and that solo in Xanadu. Like the other day we were at the temple.
Well, now, Cheech,
And
before you share their story, just a question. You being
yeah.
a musician, is it hard to go from bass to keys?
Um I did it. I did it at a gig once when I was in middle school because that's how much I wanted to be Getty Lee. It's impossible. I
Oh,
couldn't do it.
no, that's crazy. Pause.
I
It's
I couldn't do it.
impossible. So
Yeah.
I will say Getty, I feel like I don't know if you listen to classical music, but I feel like key players, and it's funny actually aside, and then you can tell your story. In the movie School of Rock, Lawrence, who's like this Japanese kid,
Yeah.
he's very good at the classical keys. And Jack Black character, Ned Schneebly, he plays like the sub Ned Schneebly. He
Yeah.
has him play dun, 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 on
Yeah.
Doors Touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really funny. He goes to playing really complex keys like dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I did it in high school and I was you know what I was nervous about? My bass falling. Getty must have
Wow.
strap locks on him. He
Right.
obviously
I
does. I was so
bet.
paranoid.
Also,
Uh
can we talk about? I could have sworn I saw him with that double bass and keys. Dude, this dude is like he's holding that heavy like ton bass.
oh God.
He's a genius.
Getty is playing Moog pedals, he's singing, he's playing keys. So he definitely knew how to play keys because that solo go in Xanadu is amazing. As I
Yeah.
hear it in my head right now. And it goes back to the other day, me and you were in the temple. We were just hanging out, and they've been playing great songs. And they played Lucky Man. This is how this prog rock actually, the temple gave us this episode.
I know.
Thank you.
I feel like the temple is our source of divination. Like
It
we
is.
we sacrifice to the gods of rock and we get blessed with knowledge and there's demons.
Yeah,
Demons.
it's heaven and hell. And they're playing Lucky Man, blaring, and we're hearing Emerson's Moog solo at the
Yeah.
end. I'm like, Manny, listen to that shit,
No.
you know?
No, and in yacht rock, AM Gold Rock, dude, the Moog and synthesizer is one of the main
Oh
also
yeah.
components of that soft, nice
Linda McCartney rocked the Moog
yeah.
and Wings,
Yep,
you
yep.
know?
Well, it's
You know.
funny. I could be wrong, but I know. First of all, McCartney. You talk about another crazy musician, multi-instrumentalist, experimentalist as well. And I think he taught his wife. I'm pretty sure he did because
Yeah.
he made up all those Moog sounds.
Oh yeah.
So he needed someone to sequence them what live or play live. So that's how
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Linda kind of picked up on that. But yeah, you're
Well,
right.
a lot of these guys in prog rock are influenced, especially bass players who sing or and Chris Squire especially are all influenced by Entwistle and McCartney. You know, Red
Yes,
Blade,
yes. And actually, it's
especially
funny.
McCartney singing and
Yes.
playing bass, you
Yes,
know.
yes, and it's funny because we're gonna mention, and and it's crazy because I told you this. Sergeant Pepper is
Oh,
the origins of prog, but before
yeah,
we,
we're gonna get there. We're gonna
which I'm
get
gonna
there.
have a deep dive on that album because I
Oh yeah,
love that album, and I'll
it's
be honest with
classic.
you, concept album, like, moi.
Oh, and believe it or and the Beatles are going to come up a couple of times in this
Yep,
episode,
yep.
believe it or not. So, where was I? So, yeah, formal classical training. So these guys were no joke. They studied. They went to the conservatories and stuff.
Mm.
You know, they're all musical virtuosos in their instrument, and they showcase their technical playing from every musician in the band. There's not one slacker.
Mhm.
There's not like one dude who's like playing, one note on the
And that's
bass.
really important to note. And
Yeah.
if you couldn't play an instrument, which usually was odd, they were master lyricists and very well read.
Oh, yeah, these guys were, I didn't even get into lyrics. Like the
Oh yeah.
lyrics, I mean, like, this is where Rush and Neil got inspired. The
Yeah.
lyrics are, topics of philosophy, poetry, art.
Spirituality, religion.
Yep,
Close to the
everything.
Edge is Yes's response to spirituality, especially they were, I think, were inspired by a Hindu text.
Yeah, well, John Anderson was a genius lyricist.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it, like he was before Neil, and he was really spiritual, Anderson. And what he did for Yes, he wrote all those lyrics, and that guy sang like an angel, unique singer. Um, so musical virtuosity, even the singers, you couldn't suck. You had to be a great
Oh
singer
no,
too.
you
So
you
forget
have
about being,
yeah.
a musician.
You either had to be a great yeah, you're right. I'm trying because in these prog rock bands, and by the way, we're still haven't even touched prehistoric yet. We're talking about like the classic prog rock
Yeah,
bands
yeah.
and
There's
artists.
four classic prog rock bands everybody knows or
Well,
should
yeah, in
know.
our opinion, I might get some like dissenters there, but yes, I agree. And they were all instrumentalists. And again, if you did not play an instrument, you were at least a powerful lyricist, well-read in philosophy,
Yeah.
high literature. And again, I think that is why it's also a lot of people. I mean, it got really big, progressive rock at one point. I mean, but I feel like maybe it wasn't as popular in America because in
No.
America they wanted more. And it's funny because in America during the height of the four greats that we're going to be talking about, I feel like rock music was a little bit different.
Yeah, when this stuff was coming out, was psychedelics in America. So you had Hendrix was the big thing. Obviously, the Beatles were ending. Zeppelin was just coming out. Deep Purple would be, well, they're English, so
But you know what's funny,
well,
Cheech?
Deep, well, Deep,
Led Zeppelin had to break in America. So do you remember what was popular in America during that time? Like,
uh, American bands at that time in 1969. In the rock world, there was a lot of great bands: Grand Funk, Mountain, Jimi Hendrix. You had like the whole like California scene.
hmm,
I'm trying to think of the James Gang,
hmm.
bands like that were really popular. Well, the
Santana?
Santana, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. You know what I mean? So you had a lot of those types of bands.
You
So
forgot
what?
one, you forgot a single artist, a solo artist, famous,
You got me.
Mr. Bob Dylan.
Oh God, I could forget Dylan. But it wasn't like that's what was going on in the States.
Mm,
Singer songwriters. Hendrix was just blowing up the world with,
mm.
with what he was doing.
And the Doors,
Oh yeah,
bands like
Janis
that.
Joplin. Oh,
Mhm.
Janis, The Doors. How could I forget? My mind is on England, Kent, England right
I
now.
know, seriously, yeah, yeah. And I raise that point because that's it's interesting because progressive rock is it's like highbrow English culture.
It
Like
is.
it's highbrow rock that's gonna and I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you, and like we said, it's gonna influence everything. Like
yeah,
even Black Sabbath at one point was progressive.
yeah. There was no prog bands in America at this time.
No, it comes after.
Yeah, there was nothing really. There might have been proggy. Oh well, Frank Zappa, but I don't know what year Zappa's
But I'll be
album.
honest with you, he doesn't start. I mean, he was already weird, but he doesn't start to Hot Rats. I think that's the album, and that's like 70.
That's 70.
Yeah,
So there was
he
prog.
came out with some interesting records, but
Yeah,
I mean, technically, maybe Prague. I mean, you
he
could be
would.
right.
No, I would say Zappa's total
And
prog.
obviously, he inspired Deep Purple, Smoke on the
Yeah,
Water. So,
yeah. I mean, Deep Purple is a prog band to a degree because they played with an orchestra before in rock and Machine Head and all that. So they played with an orchestra. That doesn't get much proggier than that. So Deep Purple is like Tull. They're proggy, and they had a killer organ player,
but the only problem
John
is that they're
Lord.
not American.
Right? No, but I mean in general, I mean,
Yes, yes,
as
and
another
they
prog
made it
band.
big in America, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh, they were huge in America.
right.
But yeah, I can't think of American prog during this time. Um, so then the third point. genre fusion of the blends of rock with elements of other forms of music, classical, jazz, and of course folk. And bands like Tull and Yes and Renaissance, they put that folk in there. In Gentle Giant has a lot of cool
And
folk elements.
and Genesis, early
I
Genesis.
always forget that. Yeah, always
Yeah,
remind me because I hate like for me I got Genesis later, and I
I know.
got Genesis because of Steve Harris, because Steve Harris always talked about Wishbone Ash, who was another prog
Yeah.
band, and Genesis selling England by the pound, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
which is one of the best albums.
and I'm sitting there going, Genesis, what? They were
Yeah.
prog,
And if you listen to that, that folk pastoral sound is what you're talking. So
yeah,
English, which I love.
yeah, and that's an English thing from
And also
Zeppelin.
early Pink Floyd. Not
Oh
with
yeah,
Sid Barrett, like after. They had
yeah,
that
yeah.
weird pastoral folk edge.
Because folk was always big in England.
Yeah.
I mean, traditional Welsh folk,
Hmm.
Great Britain folk, let's say, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, Non-traditional time signatures. Bands would often use irregular and shifting time signatures to make it more complex. Now, non-traditional time would be, traditional time would be AC/DC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2,
No, and now for all our viewers out there, because now you're entering music theory.
Yeah.
We talked about time signatures. Now, Cheech, you as a musician, why does that matter? Like why?
Because I played in prog bands. I played prog metal. I played prog rock. You're used to four. Everything's on the beat.
And
You know,
remind me, most music is 4/4, right?
all music is 4/4. Okay, all American music. You get into some uh, other forms of music. Like Indian music and things like that. It's definitely odd metered stuff. It gets crazy in other parts of the world. Greek music and stuff. They're not using regular four. So you're playing in four, and you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you got to jump into 7/8 time. You're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's take 7/8 time, and let's go into 5/8 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now add a bar 3, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was 6/4. That's my example of odd meter.
Which is and it's crazy because you're counting out the beats, but in
Yeah.
practice, this sounds insane.
I'm giving you like 101 because you could take 7/8 and subdivide it. And 6/8 is a great example of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That 50s feel. Dot 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 dot. And that's three, 1, 2, 3 with and broken up into 4, 5, 6. So it has two impulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And
1, 2,
and,
3, 4.
and I will say so just out of now, obviously it matters for like everyone in the band, right?
Yeah.
Now for the drummer who keeps the
Oh
time,
God.
right? They're the ones responsible for like
The
keeping
drummer,
that time.
a drummer has to, if you want to be a good drummer, you have to master odd meter. You have to master it. You have to master 4/4, obviously. You have to master 3/4. 3/4 is a waltz, which is like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bum ba na 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 dun 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 dun. 1, 2 is like a march. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Mhm.
So those are just simple. A great example of YYZ.
Mm.
That's 5/4. That's 5/4. Money, boom, boo doo, boom, 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 boom. That's 6/4. Okay, so these are all elements of, and then there's 15/8, which Zappa got into, and
Right.
and then
And
like
that starts getting more
yeah,
jazzier.
yeah, 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 avant-garde.
Right.
So. I was in a band. We would do measures of 15/8. We'd go to 6/8. We'd go to 4. And I would write some of this music, and they'd hate me. They'd be like, "Oh man." I wrote a song, an existential piece. It was about existentialism, and it was with Will. Everything was 15/8 and 7/8. And this is my old band. They would dread to play the song because you have to be you can't. I played in a prog band called Cerberus, and it was so. I mean, I almost didn't enjoy it. We played CBGBs because every song was that odd meter stuff. It was completely. We sounded like Genesis. I wish there was a recording of
No,
it. You know?
and this is fascinating because again, for our modern audience viewer, they're if they they're looking at this and most of the music on the charts, I'll be
Oh
honest with
God,
you, it just follows the basic, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? Basic 4, 4,
everything.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's famously in like seen in song one of the most popular songs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga has a song. Uh, what's it called? It was one of the songs I think I sent you. It's like an end of the world song. I forgot the title. But anyway, yeah, it's very digestible to the ears, I think, right? For like the
yeah.
wide,
Oh yeah,
because now once you and I think the reason why and you're a musician, so I know why you love this. Before I knew all that, let's say I would listen to Genesis, and I knew there was something different about this music. I
yeah,
could put my
yeah,
ear on it. I loved it. There was nothing like my dad showed me Supper's Ready, and
yeah.
that's a massive going through
One
many
of the
different
best
time
prog
signatures,
songs.
waves, musical styles.
That's a great example of time changing constantly. You know,
Yeah.
that was ready.
Yeah, and I knew there was something odd about this song. Another one is Money. Dun 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 boom boom
And
boom
I'll
boom.
give you another example, and I got to give a shout out to my good friend Jay, who we spoke today on Facebook. He's a fan of the show, and we were in a band, Viking Superstar. Check us
Wait,
out.
what's
We
his
have
name?
a
Jay?
Jay, yeah,
All right,
Jay
Jay,
Folk.
Jay, you rock.
He does rock. Jay is a phenomenal guitar player. He's one of the best technical guitar players I've ever played with. And check this out. We had a band called Viking Superstar with the great Robbie Offerman, who's now the People's drummer. And
Hmm.
that was prehistoric Potter's Field. And we did Red by King Crimson, Passage to Bangkok, White Room.
Oh,
And so
wait,
now,
wait, Cream's White Room?
yeah,
Oof.
yeah. You could go check us out on I think we're on YouTube. Just put in Viking Superstar.
What,
So
send
Jay,
me, send me the link. I'll post it below.
definitely. Jay sent me what's the drummer in Pink Floyd? Mason? Dave
That
Mason?
is Nick Mason.
Nick Mason. He said he watched the episode. He said Dave Mason rocks, and he sent me a solo, the guy rocking, and I was like, wow, I never seen him rock because I made a comment. So thank you, Jay, and it was him really bombastic playing,
Yeah.
and then Jay said, don't forget to talk about White Room because White Room they might have innovated this before anybody. Cream, the beginning of White Room, it's 5/4 time. So it starts off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each beat is five, not four. And I played in bands that were just the drummer didn't know what
A-
the hell they were doing, and they
And
would
then
play
when it returns to din din din, does it go back to 4/4?
right into four, yeah,
And that's why it sounds strange. Like
yeah. And there's timpani going on, so that is a prog intro.
that is a
So
prog intro.
thank you,
Yeah.
Jay, for bringing that up. And also, um, Jack Bruce went to the Royal Academy, I think, or some music school in England. So he played
Yeah.
cello. He wanted to be a cellist. He didn't want to be a bass player or an upright bass player. He wanted to be a jazz bass player. So he studied classical and everything. So that's hopefully I explained odd meter.
Oh yeah, that's this will be the odd meter chapter.
Yeah. And then there's syncopation. Let me put that in there. So in 4/4, you could syncopate, like if you're doing 16th notes on the hi-hat, one E and the two E and the it's like you could go like you could break a 16th note up into syncopation. Now the amazing thing about rappers and old school rappers, new school rappers, when they use that drum machine, their syncopation is insane. It's the hi-hat
Well,
patterns
you know what's funny about that? And
are the most proggiest hi-hat patterns. They don't have a clue. They have no idea.
no, they're just
Maybe
operating.
some of them do. I'm not knocking them.
No.
Maybe I doubt they listened to Relayer by Yes and said, let's do this Alan White hi-hat pattern. But let me tell you, that shit's impressive.
Yeah. No, and it's funny also in I'm not the most biggest fan of this genre anymore, reggaeton, because it's like
Yeah.
syncopated beats and the reggaeton rapper needs to obviously hit
Oh
those
yeah.
lyrics on the like you said, the syncopation, which is
Yeah.
fascinating thing, yeah. And then in the prog rock world, it's you know,
Yeah.
things can go crazy.
So I got to add odd meter and syncopation. They go hand in hand. You
Yeah.
know, and syncopation is probably more difficult than odd meter because if you have a syncopated rhythm, and James Brown would be the best, like ba 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 that that's a syncopated rhythm. You're not just going like boom 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 boom. You know, you're adding that extra little in there. And if you don't catch that, funk is the epitome of syncopated beats. A good funk band, you know. So anyway, I'm giving a lesson on rhythm. So hopefully that made sense and you guys learned something from that. Um,
Well, actually, Cheech, before you move on, can you give example of syncopation in prog rock in a prog rock song?
ooh, let me see. Oh God, I have to
Or
think
a song
about
you
that.
know, so the audience can like understand like
Well, James Brown. So
okay, so
any
James
James
Brown.
Brown beat would be like ba 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 ba
Hmm.
that is a syncopation that da 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 do da da
So
da da
I
da.
guess in the prog rock world, it sounds a lot like if correct me if I'm wrong, the drummer will fill that.
Oh, the drummer will do that, yeah,
Right.
and everyone will go along with it, you know.
Right. So they'll do the sync you hear it syncopated beats and like the
Yeah,
syncopated drum
Neil Peart. Let's put it. Every Rush song, Neil Peart is syncopating his hi hat. That's an example.
no, and,
Every Rush
no,
song,
and just you know for our viewers out there doing how hard is that?
it's impossible. Listen to Subdivisions, you know,
You know, it's funny. Did you see that
Subdivisions.
video I sent you with those two? They were reacting, and I love shout out whoever they are, but they were saying that, and I don't know if they know anything about Rush rock music.
Yeah.
They were saying like Neil Peart, they were like just bowing down, just
Oh yeah,
hearing
yeah.
what he was doing, and I say that's why he's one of the greatest drummers.
Oh yeah,
And correct
yeah.
me if I'm wrong, jazz drumming, right? It's all
Oh,
about.
jazz drumming is all about syncopation. You know, I didn't even go there. You know, Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach.
Have you seen the movie Whiplash? It kind of talks about
Yeah,
that. So you can kind of see how hard that is, and
yeah. When he's like, not that's not my one.
that's yeah, that's not my tempo.
It's not my tempo.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
even know
mean,
what does that mean?
you set a certain tempo, and to get it perfect, that's why, like, you know, I'm more of a fan of Humble Pie, where the tempo is more relaxed in the
Right,
Allman Brothers
right.
instead of like, you know, on like
Well,
on top of the beat. Like whenever I played in prog bands that were specifically prog bands, I have to admit it wasn't fun
right.
because there's no improvisation, everything is perfect and everything is just your brain, you can't not even think, you're a machine, you know. It was fun when you got through it, but the anxiety of like, oh my god, that 7/8 part is coming, I hope I don't fuck it up. And if you fuck up a 7/8 part, you just destroyed the whole groove, and everyone's looking at you like, oh my god, what is this guy doing, you know. But Neil's doing a syncopation on every single song, every Rush song. Neil's
And
doing
like
that.
you said, you hear it in the hi-hats, right? Is that
Hi-hats especially,
what's
yeah.
a hi-hat for those that don't know?
That the hi-hat is where that you're going, you know,
Mm.
like everything you hear in rap music, you know,
Right, right.
like
And
that.
that's why yeah, we always throw a nod to hip hop beats and artists for, and lyrically what they're doing is old school. I don't
Like,
know about the new stuff, but the old
no, the new stuff, I gotta say, like
oh,
who's ever like programming, it's easy to hit a button and you're hearing that like
right, right. So it sounds like the producer has a
yeah. But like I'm saying, that dude's not going back to Fragile from Yes or going, you
Mm,
know, let's take that song and you know, they're just hitting a
right.
pre-programmed hi-hat that's
Right.
sick, you know, and I give him props for that.
Yo, only on the Cheech and Manny show do we go from musical theory to rap.
But I'm telling you, rap rhythms,
No, no, it's
especially
great.
now,
No, it's
It,
great.
the lyrics and the
No, and
mumble.
and do you remember the early hip hop? They were influenced by what? James Brown samples. So it's not a
Well,
coincidence.
the funky drummer is a great
Yeah,
example. Or what's that song? Sex Machine.
yeah.
That is the epitome of a
Now it's like
funk.
it's like that I forgot which song it was by James Brown, like din it din
Exactly.
it like
That's
and James
syncopation.
Brown see him live. I,
Yeah.
he must train his band to such he must be like the guy from Whiplash who he plays no games and
Manny, you just nailed syncopation.
yeah.
You just did that. And then, or a great example of the greatest syncopation bass line. There's two. Come On, Come Over by Jaco Pastorius. The line is insane. It's all syncopated. And What Is Hip by Tower of Power, Rocco Prestia.
Hmm.
Good luck playing those songs because it's not a straight, and it's 16th notes. When you syncopate 16th notes, and 16th notes are one E and the two. I okay. So quarter notes are one, two, three, four. Eighth notes are one and two and three and four. And 16th notes are one E and the two E and the three and the four E and okay. When you do syncopation on you might be like on an eighth note, play on the and, like and two, and that kind of thing. But when you syncopate four 16th notes, you have four notes to syncopate. It's insane. There's a drummer named Louis Belson. He wrote a whole
And
book
we
about this.
and the songs send me them thanks and I'll post them below so our viewers can
Yeah.
see what that
And
means.
jazz drummers are the kings of that. Louis Belson, he wrote a book about syncopation. Any great jazz drummer, you've studied syncopation, you study odd meter. We just went on a tangent
I
on that.
know we haven't even begun our prog rock episode.
We're not,
Hey,
instant.
for our audience out there, strap in. This is gonna be epic.
Yeah,
This is
this
the
is all music.
equivalent of a prog rock album.
Yeah, it is, and a lesson in music.
Silky Joe will be proud.
Any more questions on syncopation and odd meter?
Oh, sir.
I think we covered it. So instrumentation used massive drum kits.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, drum kits like
And we're not talking about Ringo Starr drum kits.
no.
These are next level.
I think
Now,
excuse me.
now, correct me if I'm wrong, Cheech. I think like some of the early ones that were even though technically they were not prog, like Keith Moon's drum grew in size, right?
Oh well, his kit grew later on.
Oh no,
I
you're right.
think.
Scratch that. I'm
Yeah,
thinking more of the '70s stuff. Yeah, you're right. He probably got
yeah.
influenced by the prog rock stuff,
You
maybe.
know, I think Ian Pace started to get a bigger kit. Bonham never had a huge kit. He always,
No, he was
yeah, he
just
had
bare
two,
bones.
Purple, Sabbath, and
So
Zeppelin.
who had the biggest kit first, you think?
That's a great question. Oh, Carl Palmer.
Mm.
Carl
For our
Palmer
audience out
had
there, who is that?
the drummer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. In my opinion, the greatest prog rock band. I think
Hmm.
but and Keith Emerson had a massive double stack
You know,
Moogs, and he was surrounded by Moog. I mean, think about this: Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
no,
Keith
there's
Emerson is surrounded by
yeah,
keyboards like he's on the UFO.
yeah. There's a famous
Stacks,
picture of him. Yeah,
stacks of more
and no,
behind
no,
him.
and cables all over the place. Like,
Yeah, because back then they were plug-ins, so he's plugging in Moog
yeah,
stuff. It wasn't like now you just have like a pad. He would get a knife and he'd plug it in his Hammond organ. He'd stab a knife to hold a note down so he could jam, with like it had three sounds going on. He was a master of the Hammond organ. He would rock it like it was like Jimi Hendrix on the guitar. Carl Palmer had a massive set. He had timpani, he had everything. I'm pretty sure he had timpani, but he had and there's our boy James Huff sending me some old funk from the 70s. Shout out to James
shout
Huff.
out to James. He knows his gospel and funk.
He does. So like Carl Palmer had that massive, massive kid. I would say Carl Palmer. Michael Giles from King Crimson. I'm not sure. I never seen what his kit looked like. Bruford had a pretty big kit, but it wasn't massive. Alan White later on, when he joined Yes during Relayer and Tales of Topographic Oceans, had a massive kit. I don't know about Phil Collins. You would know that better.
So what I noticed with Phil Collins, at first it was standard with a
Yeah,
few extra drums. As it kept progressing, his kit grew bigger.
yeah,
And eventually, one of the best, there are so much videos of him. And it's a shame because I don't think people know him for his drumming. He's
No.
legendary prog rock
Oh,
drummer.
oh, he
And
is phenomenal.
and he has this, oh, dude, you should watch him in his 80s. He would be behind the kit and he has a lot of drums. And when it came time for the drum solo, he just starts like Neil Pearting the drums. And
Yeah.
he's definitely like it grew as the band because again, Genesis, and you said this with the sounds, they started to expand.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I mean, for a drummer, in order to get more sound in and sounds, you're gonna have to drill that. But at the beginning, I think it was pretty fairly sized. I think if
Yeah.
anything, when he came on for when he came on, I believe for Nursery Crime, and especially Foxtrot, I think he had a really good kid. But that's already the height of prog. So
Yeah.
at that point, we already saw bands like
Well, I just thought of this. The man who started the big drum kit was Ginger Baker. And I
there we
think
go.
I think everybody took it from him. He had double bass. He had a lot of drums. Ginger Baker had a lot. He had a big drum kit. So I would say Ginger Baker is the man responsible for the big drum kit. That was 67,
Right,
68,
right.
and that's before Prague. So
Right.
every Prague guy listened to Cream, even though they were blues rock, but they jammed. I would even consider Cream like a blues rock Prague
Prog
band.
for sure, and
You know.
especially their albums are, if anything, conceptual and proggy, like
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Israeli gears, and
Oh yeah.
I think
But
that's
they had
probably
a pop sensibility.
they did. They did.
Strange Brew and Sunshine of Your Love. Come on,
Well,
no,
it's
but
obvious that they were influenced by the American and Beatles
yeah.
sensibility,
Oh,
blues.
definitely.
They combined everything into
Yeah,
one
but there was a
beautiful package.
huge prog element in that.
Well, and it's funny, Ginger Baker's drum beat for Sunshine of Your Love is a tribal beat. Dude, how proggy is that?
Yeah, Ginger Baker might be the original prog kind of drummer.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Keith Moon was just nuts.
No,
That
you know
was
what's
a
funny? I
punk.
mentioned
He's a
no,
punk
and it's
drummer.
funny. Keith Moon is fascinating because I was talking more of his later performances, like in the middle 70s.
Yeah,
Um, but I remember I watched this. It was this classic performance of the Who in the 60s. So they're wearing, it was the one
yeah.
where Keith Moon hit explosive in his drum kits, and you see him. They break out My Generation, and mind you, his drum kit is small and like an animal. Like you ever seen the Muppets, the
Was
animal?
that on the Dick Cavett show? Wait, I seen that
I think it's the
footage.
Dick Cavett show.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
have
They
you
were
seen the
nuts.
Muppets? There's a little red monster that plays the drums.
Animal. Yeah, animal.
Animal. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you see just Keith Moon. Dun, 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 and he just starts going crazy. Literally,
Well,
like the drum kit is about to explode. And it
it,
literally does.
he would destroy it. Literally. I think "Won't Get Fooled Again" is probably one of the greatest drum fills
Hmm.
ever, ever, ever
Yeah,
in rock history.
I agree.
It's monstrous.
I
Boom.
think
What's the word? He's bombastic. The guy
yeah.
was just. But yet he's not a prog drummer. He's
No,
like
he comes
he's
from
like a
that. It's like
punk
John
drummer.
Bonham. It's a
Yeah.
mix of blues and punk. It's strange.
Right. John Bonham became proggy on Presence.
He did. No,
You
John
know,
Bono's fascinating. I always argue that it's crazy because no one can drum like Bonham. Bonham had
no.
this, and it sounds simple at first, and we talked about this. And as he kept getting proggier, who knows? He might have been a great prog rock drummer eventually.
And to go back to syncopation, the crunge.
Yeah.
Bop, bump, bump, bop,
Yeah, yeah,
bump.
and we talked about that. How that was like,
That's that's a James Brown thing, but that's another syncopation. So let's talk about instrumentation. Obviously, guitar, bass, huge drums, massive keyboards. Rick Wakeman, Keith Emerson they were hidden by their keyboards. The guitar players had double necks, triple necks.
yeah.
Mike Rutherford, I think he had a guitar and bass at one point together. Uh, Geddy Lee
And I
also
want to give a
had that.
special shout out to Steve Hackett of Genesis. He famous for his 12 string playing, but he was kind of, I think, classically trained. Dude,
Yeah.
and it's funny, he hated playing live because he was like, I think, like shy or something. But he would be
Yeah.
sitting down and you'll see he started tapping. And it's been said that he was one of those that actually invented that.
When we get to our favorite guitar player
Yeah.
out of the four, I bring that up. Steve Howe, well, actually, Steve Howe didn't invent tapping. A guy named Charlie Christian invented it, a jazz guitar player from the 40s. Um, and Steve Howe took that and he invented tapping. Tapping would be holding down like trilling, and then with this hand go like hitting one note, and that's what he was doing. But he was doing it not like Van Halen, but he was prehistoric tapper.
Hmm.
Steve Hackett, underrated guitar player. People need to listen to Steve Hackett way more, especially that
Yeah.
live Genesis. What's the live Genesis album?
Literally Genesis Live.
That's one of the best
Yeah.
examples of how great Steve Hackett is. A friend of mine gave me that in 1990. This guy Ralph Vaccaro, and I could not believe. I
Yeah.
could not. That's how I learned about prog from this guy Ralph. He was younger than me, and he turned me on to like all the greats, all the great prog stuff. Um, so anyway, shout out to Ralph. Um, Let me see. So and then also they added Mellotrons.
Yeah.
Moog synthesizers was a huge part of
I,
a
I think that's the one of the you know how prog every genre of music has its defining like features. I think
yeah
Moog is defining. And
yeah.
for our audience out there, geez, what's Moog?
I can't even really put it into words. It's a keyboard that came out in the 60s.
Hmm.
There was the Rogue Moog, and the thing that made it popular was somebody played Bach minuets on it, or Prelude in C, and they did all these Bach cello suites on it. I remember I got the album in college, and it was Bach plays Moog. So Moog was already popular in the 60s. It was Philip Glass used it, avant-garde people used it, or just
Now,
something.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
The Beatles, one of the first to use it in popular music.
the Beatles were. They used
Yeah,
Moog.
and
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about the Beatles because they brought
I
into
did.
studios
Did they use it on Sergeant Pepper's? I think it's
and
on
they
Sergeant
used it
Pepper.
on famously uh Strawberry Fields Forever.
Yeah. So Moog is just a unique sound that it's hard to say. Tom Sawyer would be the Lucky
Yeah.
Man and Tom Sawyer are what if you want to know what Moog sounds like, that's it.
Yeah.
But Moog was the Rogue Moog, like Tom Sawyer Moog. You can only use one note at a time. You can't play chords on it. It's only one note at a time. But the ones that Keith Emerson had were so complex. Moog is so popular. They have Moog Fest now, where people go in the city and they Moog is still a thing, but it's not the real Moog. It's all these computerized,
Electronic. More like
electronic. It's not the same. It's not the same. To me, do what Keith Emerson did. You can't get that. You get it sounds like a Moog, but it's not the same. Uh, Also, they used Mellotrons, which was interesting because it was a tape. It was the beginning of
Oh, you
sampling.
know what's funny? I think I might have confused that. I think the Beatles used either Moog or Mellotron. I think it's Mellotron.
I have to research
Anyway,
that.
anyway, we're just really
It was
discussing.
probably
Yeah.
it was probably Mellotron,
And
but I
what's a
did.
Mellotron? What is that?
It's like a sample of four sounds in a keyboard. It's like pre-samples, so it was way ahead of its time.
Now,
So
could
they'd
we
have
argue that today everything's on the computer?
you
So
could get string sounds out of it. John Paul Jones used it a lot.
now,
Mainly known for strings. It would
mm,
give you an orchestra sound by hitting a keyboard.
and I think it's Mellotron, but today I'm assuming computers not kind of killed the Mellotron because everything's computer.
Computers, you could get any sound in the world. I remember, I don't want to go off on tangents, but I have a giant PV speaker. It weighs like it'll keep 300 pounds. I brought it into a studio, brought my head. And the engineers looking at me like, "What are you nuts?" And this is like 10 years ago. What are you nuts? I'm not gonna mic that. I'm not, I have this Moog. I mean, this cabinet. It's I forgot the name what they called it. It's a patch. We'll just patch you in. We'll give you a cabinet sound. I'm like, dude, there's nothing like the real thing.
Mm,
I don't want to get a pre-programmed bass cabinet sound that I plug into the board, the mixing board, then he hooks up that sound to my
yo,
bass, and it sounds like it's running through a cabinet.
you know
I'm
what?
like, no, no way. I want a mic'd sound out of my amp. I want that dirty sound with a board sound. Chris Squire did it. I'm not comparing myself to Chris Squire, but I wanted that kind of beefy, in your face. sound, not from a sampled bass cabinet. Now it's all samples,
Yeah.
and
Now,
the guy
Cheech,
was just,
do you think that has led to the decline of rock music, you think?
oh hell yeah.
You would know.
I mean, I loved around a PV giant. People who know me, I still get questions about it. Now I don't use it as much because we use house band equipment. But I lugged this thing around for 35 years, 37, 8 years.
And it lasted you that long.
I still got it. Yeah. And I was playing through a rehearsal the other night. I was talking to the owner of the studio. He got a Fender, 1970 Fender cabinet through a hard key head. I'm like, man, I love this rig. He's like, yeah, but you can't bring it out anywhere. You need a van. You need a van to just put the bass rig in. And you got to bring that to a club when you're like 50 years old and you're 56 years old and your back is shot. They have modern equipment that's the size of an alarm clock that is just as loud as that, and that's your head. It's a little bigger than your phone. I played through heads as big as like an alarm clock, or I don't know if people. I'll use this as an example. If you could see this, it's my alarm clock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm old school. I don't use the phone. Uh, as big as that, and the thing is louder than this Fender amp that I played out of. So, but I'm going off. I'm getting too
I know.
technical. But,
No, it's great, man. But okay,
yeah,
so keep
The
going.
Mellotron was basically a sampler before a sampler. Then you had violins, classical instruments, timpani, cello, and saxophone. And I believe there's a sax solo in 21st Century Schizoid Man.
Yes. And that's what,
So
dude, and I can't wait to talk King Crimson because all of those elements you're talking for our viewers out there. And actually, um, I'll link some of Cheech's music recs that he has said, and I'll link a YouTube version of so you can hear King Crimson. Everything that we're talking about is in 21st Century Schizoid, man.
exactly.
Everything, which is insane.
20, I gotta say, out of
And by the way,
every,
for our viewers out there, famously sampled by Kanye West on this song,
oh,
Power of My Twisted Dark Fantasy. So if you want to hear that sample, which we just talked about hip hop, he actually takes it too.
now, which is cool. Now, I don't know. Well, he is a 22nd century schizoid man, Kanye, so he might know
No,
that
no, no.
song.
I'll be honest with you. It's true because he is a
He
21st,
might know that song. You know what
he's
I
a
mean?
schizoid man. Yeah.
Yeah. What are we in the 20? We're in the 21st century. I don't even know anymore, are we? At
And
this
we
point, yeah.
are in the 21st century. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
So he is a 21st century schizoid man.
He's a schizoid.
So I don't know if he would uh I wouldn't be surprised
And
if he
think
listened to
about it
Crimson.
for all our prog rock haters out there. Kanye West was listening to King Crimson. Let that sink in for a little bit.
Yeah, let that sink into one specific dude out there.
Think
Okay.
about it. And no offense, I know he's controversial now, but he was considered a hip hop genius.
Now there's a dude who needs to play King Crimson in his set at his next DJ
You
gig.
keep recommending, somebody to sample Rush. Listen, you want to be like Kanye, you got to listen to your elders.
How many rap artists sample prog rock? I know there is one who did the end of Lucky Man. I heard it one time on the radio and I never knew who the band was. I try to find it. But props to him
Kanye.
to Kanye, man.
Yeah.
That's genius.
And he took the weirdest part, 21st century schizoid man. Like
Oh
he
God.
took the most weirdest part because again, we kept talking about and you haven't even mentioned like actually yeah, you mentioned it. And what's fascinating about that song is the voice distortion,
Yes, and
which is
it's very John Lennon sounding. Greg
yeah,
Lake sounds like John Lennon on that song. I Now that's amazing when you put distortion on a voice. Nobody did that before.
no, it's pretty revolutionary.
So that song might be one of the greatest. I think it's the greatest prog rock song ever
Yeah,
written,
it could
in my opinion.
yeah, it's and I can't wait to do our top 5 or top 10 list because
Oh, we got to do that. We got
yeah,
to do that
if
sometime.
anything, we trust me for all our prog rock fans. If you're hungry for prog rock content, get ready because We're gonna go deep.
We're gonna go deep dive it on this, but
And
yeah.
we should
So
even have as a aside, we should have an episode where we invite Silky Joe and his take on prog rock. What?
Joe's a huge Yes fan, so he'll definitely,
Oh, there we go.
he knows a
I
lot
know,
about
and
Yes.
you're right. And he loves Yes so much that he will not see them without John Anderson.
Yeah, and I don't blame him.
I don't
I don't.
blame him.
John Anderson is the voice of Yes, so you can't without you. Although I will say, Drama with Trevor Horn, it's a good album.
I remember you
And that's
saying that. Yeah.
controversial because he left the band and he did write Video Killed the Radio Star, but it's a great album. Drama is a great album. I mean, just for the bass alone, oh my God, him and Steve Howe and Alan White, they kill it on there.
Hmm.
So Trevor Horn, so props to that. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath
All right.
because I
Whew.
think we've
Let's take
already
our
like
bathroom breaks.
I don't know.
We got so like
We haven't
musically.
even gotten there yet. We're like
It's funny. It's funny. Joe even said this. Like we go 1,000 miles an hour. We just start.
it's insane. Okay, so Prague started in the late 60s and early 70s. Um, wait, am I? Yeah, okay. And it was over by 1976. Now, there's going to be a debate about this by a lot of people. Started with, I'm going to get into the prehistoric stuff, but the prehistoric stuff doesn't really count. That's
Mhm.
just what led to it.
That's a great point.
The golden era of prog rock started with King Crimson,
Yep.
In the Court of the Crimson King.
Yep.
Did I say it right? I always mess up that title.
In the court of the Crimson Kid.
So that's the first real prog rock album.
Yeah.
Yes, had an album at the
No,
album.
but it wasn't. You know what's funny about that? Yes, it was a little proggy.
They were still learning.
They
Yes's first album.
were. They were. It was a weird blend of like um pop.
They had a great song called Astral Travel. I mean,
Yeah.
it was almost like Pink Floyd. It was almost psychedelic.
No, I love that.
They were
That is the word I
dabbling.
wanted. It was
Yeah,
psychedelic. Yeah. It would
they
have
were
sounded
dabbling.
like that psychedelic San Francisco sound. Like they were strange. Like they were trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah.
I
I
agree with you. And in the
Now
court
then
of the Crimson King.
I'm going to talk about the Nice, and they were before ELP, so they are prehistoric prog rock, but yet they're like Crimson. They were ahead. They were doing prog rock
Were
in
they
like
part of
'68.
The famous Canterbury
No,
Tales?
no,
Not yet.
they weren't a
Okay.
part of that. But they might be equal with Crimson at starting prog rock, the
Mm.
Nice. But they don't have any hits. Not a lot of people know them. They just know Keith Emerson was a young guy
Mm.
playing keys in that band.
Oh, that's pretty significant.
But in Genesis's early stuff, they were still
Oh
learning.
no, their early stuff is good. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but
Yeah,
it's a weird blend of like soft folk pop, but it's
yeah.
not that great. Not most people won't will say it's not memorable.
But for me, prog rock is 69 to 76. That's when it ends. You know, I would even say maybe 74. Maybe 74 is where it ends.
It'll be great to see which album was the last of the prog rock greats. Like we said, King Crimson starts it. What was the last great
Um,
one?
if you, who did I say? I think Steve Hackett's solo album. No. Who's the keyboard player in Genesis?
Tony
Uh,
Banks.
Peter Banks' solo. It's either Steve
To-
Hackett,
Tony Banks.
Tony Banks. I think it's Tony Banks' solo album that they said that was the last proggy album.
But in
But
terms of like the popular, because Tony Banks' solo stuff isn't popular, but
I'll be honest, the last real prog album in 1976. I mean, you know, I don't. We could say Lamb Lays Down on Broadway was
which was
74.
75. And this is significant. I love how you said seven.
England, Selling England by the Pound was 76. That's the last one.
No, that's before.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
I don't know. I think it's
Because Lamb
76.
is after. That was like 75.
Was Foxtrot 76?
No,
No.
that's way before.
Well, there's what Genesis album came out in 76?
It was, I think, either, I'm pretty sure it was Trick of the Tail, which was after.
Okay, then that is the last prog. Whatever Genesis did,
Hmm.
that's a like because in 77, I believe Yes did Going for the One. So you could say that could be the last prog rock album, because it has Awakenings, it has some great proggy stuff
Hmm.
on it, but yet it sounds like Rush,
Right.
there's it's like it's really, really,
Yeah.
catchy.
And,
It's
and I
leading
love how
up
you
to,
said 76. You know why? Because
yeah,
England, something happened. Punk.
yeah,
So it's like the grunge in 90s where it puts the axe to a lot. And by the way, the punk movement and sort of influenced music both in the States as well and in England. In England, they hated prog rock bands. Like
yeah.
the
And
youngsters.
don't forget ABBA and all the disco stuff. 1976, all
Ye-
that,
Yeah,
that was out and huge in England. So that put a cough, the coffin in prog rock.
yeah,
So prog rock is gone. Although Yes did some great albums, Tormato in
yeah,
'78 and Works came out by ELP, but people were looking for something new. Then we're gonna get into North American prog rock, and the two bands that saved it is Rush and Kansas and Styx, in
yeah,
my opinion.
yeah.
And
Especially Rush. But yeah.
and people might say, well, Kansas was, oh, they were on the radio. They're proggy as fuck. Listen
Oh
to
no,
Left
dude,
Overture. Oh my
Dust. And
God.
first of all, Dust in the Wind. We mentioned the folk, like sort of
Yeah.
Renaissance influence. Dude, Dust in the Wind is that
Yeah. And Styx too. They
Sticks.
were proggy before
Dude,
before all that stuff.
dude, I saw Sticks live recently. I think I shared it already on our show,
Yeah.
and I'm listening to it. I was blown away, and I forgot how much synthesizers are. It, it's
Yeah.
they played the Grand Illusion in its entirety.
Dennis G. Young is a great synthesizer player.
Oh, dude, maybe legendary, and I know he kind of meant
Underrated.
he's
Underrated.
underrated, but
But yeah, go on. I'm
no,
sorry.
they played Grand Illusion in its entirety, dude.
Yeah.
I kept forgetting how much of a prog masterpiece that is.
And I got to say, in my opinion, and we're just going to end it here on this. 2112 started the beginning of something new. It started with Caress of Steel in '75,
Yeah, yeah.
and then 2112 was the
No,
first prog rock metal album.
I agree.
Hard, because it was hard.
Yeah.
Now, these prog rock bands, with the exception of King Crimson, they weren't hard. They weren't
No,
really
no, no,
heavy.
not
They
at
weren't
all.
heavy.
They could be heavy, but they
They
weren't
could be
hard.
heavy. They weren't distorted that much. Like
No.
Crimson was distorted as fuck.
Yeah.
But Rush was heavy. Kansas was heavy. Kansas was heavy on the organ too, so they kept the real prog alive. But 2112 was conceptual.
Yeah.
They took like, what the prog bands did in the concept albums, and then Rush kept it going. Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres.
Hemispheres, yeah.
So they kept art rock alive
Yep.
for a good 5 years. Oh my God. Okay. So now, and then I said the disco was out, punk was out. And also corporate rock was coming out. So in 1976, you got Boston.
Yeah.
You got Frampton Comes Alive. You got Kiss Alive, you know. But here are some key bands that were prog rock, but also were on the radio, and they were accepted. Yes, you can name Roundabout. It's on the radio just as much as More Than a Feeling, and that is prog. Think about how prog that is. It's like 8 minutes long, right? And it's on the radio.
It's a strange song why I got radio play.
Long distance runaround. ELP, Carnival 9. That's on the radio. It's proggy. Jethro Tull, considered a prog band, but I don't consider them a super prog band. They
Hmm.
had a flute in it. They had folk elements, thick as a brick. Oh God, that is a prog album. But they strayed away from that. Genesis wasn't played on the radio that much in America during the prog
As
years.
far as I know, yeah.
Yeah. Neither was King Crimson. You
No,
know,
dude, nobody knew King Crimson.
yeah. I mean, 21st Century Schizoid Man. I don't think it was played on the radio, but it might have been. Obviously, this band, it's debatable. Me and Joe were talking about this. Is Pink Floyd a prog rock band?
That's actually we when you said that, it got me thinking because Pink Floyd is fascinating in terms of how they started. They were one of the inventors of the psychedelic space rock, acid rock sound.
Yeah.
There was nothing like it. Like if you listen to Astronomy Domine off their
Yeah.
Piper at the Gates of Dawn,
Oh
it's
yeah.
space rock. There was nothing like it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
and Sid Barrett is weird in terms of what he was
Oh
trying to do.
yeah.
Not proggy. He's
No.
strange.
He
Very
was influenced by Canterbury scene.
Yeah, you could tell, but he didn't
Yeah.
take into a proggy direction. Like, if
No.
anything, what he was trying to do was trying to copy like that San Francisco sound, but kind of warp it. And
Yeah.
Pink Floyd struggled to find their identity a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't like were they prog? I'm not sure.
Well, they have elements of prog concept albums.
What I was trying to sell you is that even it's funny, their name, Pink Floyd, is a direct influence on the blues scene. So if anything, they were more influenced by that. Even Gilmore's playing is very like
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
strange. Now,
The
I said
atmospheric
this.
blues.
I say the moment they became a prog rock band,
Hmm.
and again, very short-lived, was their album, which actually they released, what you
Yeah.
said at the end, one of the last years for prog, Animals.
Yeah, yeah, that is
And
prog.
that's one of it's a challenging conceptual album. There are long
Yeah.
songs, different sounds,
Yeah.
everything that you talked about is in there.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Um,
actually one the last time, in my opinion, they
I
became
agree.
a prog rock band.
But I think the recipe is more taking elements of prog and not being a full-fledged prog band like ELP. Jethro Tull is definitely a prog band, but Tull, they had a flute in it. That's what made them proggy, and they had a commercial sound, you
Anderson
know.
will hate you for that.
But let's face
He's
it, you just
notorious. Because he was like, "We're a prog rock band." No, like
listen to early Tull.
it's that I
Oh,
could not believe he did not see himself as a prog rock band.
it's proggy. It's benefit. It's prog. If you know early Tull like benefit and stuff, it's proggy. I'm
Um,
sorry, that's what tell
it's
you're a prog
weird.
band,
It's weird how
but
you didn't see that.
you knew how to write a great song. Aqualung. Oh my God, genius. Cross-eyed Mary, genius. You know,
Him 43.
oh my God, genius.
Even though that song is a little controversial, in my opinion, for obvious reasons. It
Okay,
is
we just got is Peter Gabriel post Genesis world music or proggy? I don't know. Did I read that right?
Yeah, so
This is like we're
this
going
is wait,
live.
we gotta pause here. So Silky Joe has texted us. This is great. I wish one day we could do audience questions. Like they can send us our questions. Like we should kind of come up with an idea there. But so Silky Joe asks, is Peter Gabriel post Genesis considered to be prog music or world music? What a great question. Go. Do you want to try answer?
World music, world music.
I agree. World music. What's weird is that Peter Gabriel, and this is actually interesting with him. When he was in Genesis, he was the principal lyricist, and he was influenced by a bunch. And he came up with the conceptual "Lamb Lies Down" on Broadway concept that to this day nobody gets. But and it's funny that his rest of his bandmates were like, "Okay," but we're like, we'll follow you, right?" And since they were all geniuses, they kind of they made Genesis into Genesis.
Yeah.
When when he broke out of that, dude, his Salisbury Hill is a pop hit, and it
Oh yeah.
contains elements of world music, and he started to develop that. At the same time, he was an avant-garde experimentalist. Like
Yeah.
he was not afraid to try new sounds. Now, I don't know if you want to think that's prog. Me personally, I don't really think so. And eventually, the world music and the sound is going to reach its peak on his album So,
Yeah.
right? Where he incorporates rhythms from all over the world. It's beautiful. It's like a beautiful synthesizing of everything that he was doing.
In your eyes,
Yeah.
that has that world
And
music
it has
vibe.
that great African vocal, like that
Yeah,
great
yeah.
at towards
Well,
the end.
look at Paul Simon. I mean, not that he's
Yeah,
prog, but Paul
yeah,
Simon
yeah,
is the same
yeah.
thing.
That's right. You know, like yeah, I no, I consider him world music, and he became a pop artist, but on his own terms. Like he's weird. And he started also experimenting, but not in a prog rock way, more like an avant-garde. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't be proggy. But because it's Peter Gabriel, it's always gonna have a prog vibe to the old
of course,
timers.
because the name attached to it. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was doing something art, it was artistic. It was way
I
more
was gonna say, if
artistic than
anything, he laid the groundwork, or maybe not lay the groundwork, but art pop, like pop music that's very artistic. So yeah, I would not, I post Genesis Peter Gabriel, I would not consider prog. No.
no.
If anything, he's more like a David Bowie. Because David
Yeah.
Bowie was so experimental, um, to the point where, again, how do you classify Bowie? I mean, you technically can't. Same
Yeah,
thing
you
with
can't.
Gabriel. He's not like a Phil Collins. Well, Phil Collins got increasingly poppy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Accessibility went out of, but if you listen to his solo records before So, right?
Hmm.
For example, he has an album famously, the Melt album, where it has a song like Games Without Frontiers,
Yeah.
and Biko. Uh, Dude, there couldn't be one is world music, the other one is just strange. There's a drum machine in there, I think.
Yeah.
Spacey too. Like he was such an experimentalist.
Oh, definitely.
And he wins because he reached it. The apex is So,
Yeah.
where he has a little bit of everything on that album and soul music, Big Time and Sledgehammer.
Oh
'Cause
God.
he loves soul music, and
He
I think
did.
people forget that. You know that
Yeah.
soul sound, and he had that great blue eyed sound, blue eyed soul
Yes.
sound.
Exactly. And I
So
love that song "Dig in the Dirt."
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Also,
that's
he sang a duet. It's such a beautiful song. "Don't Cry" with Kate Bush.
yeah.
And Kate Bush herself is hard to pin down because she's an experimentalist, and
Right, right,
not a coincidence that David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, ends up producing her album,
right.
her first album. But yeah, so no, I think it's more world music pop,
Definitely.
art pop.
I hope I don't freeze up because I'm getting a call from Vincenzo.
Do you know what's funny? You were freezing up before.
Yeah. How about now?
Now you're good.
Vincenzo, I'll call you back. Shout out to the great guitar player from Pottersfield, BX, Vincenzo, who is learning.
Vinny, right?
Yeah, Vinny, we call him Vincenzo. We are learning 21st century schizoid
And
man.
it's funny you sent a sample. It's gonna open up. I think it will. I'll open it up with a title song with that.
Definitely. We're gonna I think we're gonna do it as an intro at Potter's Field too. I think we're gonna do that.
Dude, and you should have. I don't know if Bobby can sing that part. I think you can. 21st century schizoid man. And by the way, that's a true song. Who at this century, who doesn't feel like a schizoid
Man.
man? How revolutionary and Nostradamus they were.
They were. They set the times right now, what we're living in. I'm not gonna mention any names, but let's think about the 21st century schizoid people that are living right now in the
Oh yeah.
times.
Oh yeah.
There's
I
a
mean,
few of them.
the album cover is appropriate. We were living like that.
That's how we all look, you know. We won't get into the world because forget about it.
Oh
We're
gosh.
we're in the Cheech and Manny world. Fuck the real world. Because the real world sucks.
Come join our world.
Yeah, the real world sucks. That's why we're here talking about prog rock. So, okay. Thank you, Joe, for that. It's almost like we're doing a live, but that was a great question. Pink Floyd is debatable. Ian Anderson, Don't Hate Me, Jethro Tull is a prog band. Um, and then the most popular is King Crimson. Okay. So some of the prog albums that made it to radio by people, Dark Side of the Moon is considered a prog album. It never made it to radio in America. I don't know. Selling England by the Pound, Prague. Brain Salad Surgery, Prague by ELP. And one of the biggest Prague songs ever. How could we forget this? And I'm glad I put it in here. That made a movie popular and bankrolled Virgin Records and Virgin Airline. Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells,
Hmm.
which is very. I was wondering if he came from the Canterbury scene. I didn't know.
I don't know enough about him.
I don't know if he's from Kent, England, or around there, but that's total Canterbury scene music. And we're
Hmm.
gonna people might be like, what's a can? We're gonna get all into that. But Mike Oldfield, I don't he wasn't mentioned in my research, but Tubular Bells, probably one of the proggiest things written in the 70s. You gotta put Mike Oldfield when you mention prog rock, avant-garde too.
Yeah,
It's more
dude.
Canterbury influenced than prog rock.
Dude, the story of the album is so fascinating. He kept re-recording it, trying to capture this. I mean, it's fascinating. And then
Yeah.
people know it from the Exorcist theme, but it's
Yeah.
just like the beginning, like 2 minutes.
And it probably would have gone nowhere. It probably would have like been an out in England. It would have done well, but here it would have been like, another prog album. If it wasn't for The Exorcist, it saved Virgin Records, and then that saved
Now,
Virgin Airlines
now,
because that's how
Cheech,
much money it
correct me
made.
if I'm wrong. Wasn't it a hit in England?
Um,
I think it
it
was.
was a. I, I don't know if it was a huge hit. It was a hit that Blatty picked up on it, so he knew about it. So it was well known. Well, William Blatty picked
No, and
up
it's
on it
crazy
because they
because
already had a song.
yes, and I think it's the song they play at the end credits. I think like that
Yeah,
string. But yeah, no, it's fascinating. Yeah, one of the best horror movies use a sample of a prog rock intro.
yeah. And just a plug, I know Halloween's over. Check out our Exorcist
Uh,
Roland Doe episode, part one, and
Part
then a
one
breakdown
and
of the
the
Exorcist
movie.
movie. Okay. So Tubular Bells. Okay. 1972, yes, Close to the Edge, Genesis Foxtrot, um, and then The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I have that as 1974. So those are, some amazing prog rock albums. Um, you know, so did I get here? Oh, I didn't. Did I? Oh, I didn't name. All right. So why is the John? Why was the genre so popular? And there are so many bands that got into prog rock because the labels pushed it. The labels wanted you to be proggy. Could you imagine that? The record labels from 1969 and 1974, 76 wanted you to be proggy if you were that good. The more proggy you were, the better, you know. Um, so from 1972 to 74, um, I mentioned that there were some masterpieces and some iconic influence works. Um, bands would record triple albums during this era. Emerson, Lake and Palmer recorded triple, not double albums, triple albums. And the record label pushed this 100%.
Hmm.
So you have full permission from the label. Go nuts. Do 25-minute songs. The whole album, thick as a brick, is two sides.
Hmm.
That's it. So during this era, the prog rock, you know, uh, golden age from 72 to 74. Okay, and I'm going to put King Crimson in this. We said 69 to 76. Now I'm going from 72 to 74. We're in the heart of it right now. Gentle Giant, yes. Genesis, King Crimson, Red was a very popular album. Pink Floyd, all those albums. ELP, Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. 74, I have Rush in here, but they shouldn't be, but we'll put them in there. I have Kansas, but they shouldn't be in there. Now, here's a band very important. I'm going to get into later on. Their name is so fucking weird. Vandergraaf Generator. Okay, they're Rush's biggest influence.
Hmm.
They're like Gentle Giant. They are proggy as fuck. Gong. They are from the Canterbury scene. A band called Egg. They're from the Canterbury scene, and the Nice. The Nice, I shouldn't have put them in there, but they're prehistoric, but okay. Any questions on that? From 72 to 74, those are the bands you would have heard on the radio. Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, Pink Floyd, ELP, Jethro Tull, um, That's about it. But I put, and if you lived in England, Gong, Van Graff Generator, of course, Gentle Giant, and this band Egg, who I love. They should be more well known,
And
but
those bands are deep in the prog world. Like if you're
oh
proggy prog,
God, they are proggy as it doesn't
because
get
Genesis, they seem like they make Genesis like pop sellouts. Like they're
exactly Egg. Oh my God,
and it's
Egg.
funny. Do you remember those two individuals that love prog rock and they were like kind of bad mouthing Genesis a little bit? They
Yeah,
refer to those albums, especially like
yeah,
Gentle Giant and
yeah. And I would even say I forgot them in the list. Camel, who was also a
Mhm,
Canterbury
mhm.
band. And Camel is very Dream Theater. That's who Dream Theater I think was influenced by. Okay. Jesus, we haven't even scratched the surface. So now I'm gonna ask you some questions. Who do you think is the first prehistoric prog rock album? I have three of them. You mentioned one already. You could talk about that if you want.
Yes, please.
So talk about the band that you talked about already as the
Yeah.
first prog rock album.
Ready,
And who
ready,
was that?
ready. My favorite record. I'll die on my. I want on my deathbed. Play Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Um, first of everything. First concept album. First to take the album format seriously. Because back
Yeah,
in the day, albums were just singles. Strap them
exactly.
together, sell them. Nope. Beatles came in. We're gonna make a conceptual piece. Album cover is beautiful. Even the
Oh
stare at.
my God.
One of the famous things about prog rock or progressive rock is the album covers.
Always.
They're
Yeah,
almost like works of art themselves.
they are.
Um, the instrumentation, the the lyrics, the Beatles invented the idea of being a progressive pop art rock outfit instead of relying on the, one, two, three, four. No, this time let's incorporate some Indian sounds. You mentioned,
Yeah.
some strange meter as well,
Yeah. Oh,
and
the
let's
sitar. You had a sitar in there. That's Prague.
yeah.
Nobody was doing
Well, they
that.
were doing it. They having a song "Within You, Without You," which is the
Yeah.
most Indian. It's on that album. Actually, it's
Yeah.
funny. Not my favorite song on the album, but it's in there. Like it's just showing you where they were at.
What I got, A Day in a Life, is the first
Oh,
Prague album, first
well,
song
"A
ever.
Day in the Life" I consider the first prog suite. And
Yeah.
actually, before we go there, also, just from like when it's one of the best produced albums. Like you listen to it, it's so beautiful. Like they mastered every sound because again, you wouldn't be able to replicate this live. And the Beatles did not care because at that point they gave up touring and decided to put all their energy in the studio.
Pulled a Steely Dan.
They did, and it's fascinating from the get-go. You have it's bookended by like if you listen to a prog rock album, usually one of the reasons why I feel, in my opinion, they're known as progressive is because the rhythm will actually come back, right? It's supposed to be conceptual long pieces like old classical music. The
Yeah.
Beatles start out with the beginning, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and then a reprise before A Day in the Life, which
Exactly.
makes it stunning.
No, nobody did that. That's the
No,
first
nobody
Prague
did that.
album.
No, and it just shows you how much geniuses they were.
That's a great point. I
No,
forgot
and on
about that.
top of that, man, John Lennon's vocal distortions. He doesn't sing like when you listen to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I feel like his voice is, I think, sped up and double tracked. So they were
Oh yeah.
manipulating his voice.
Well, they were using 8 tracks. Who's the I always get George
Let
Martin and Brian
George,
Epstein.
George Martin.
George Martin was splicing tracks, making four into eight. So that's why that's so full, that album.
Yeah.
That's what they did to get that sound. So definitely, thank you, Beatles, for doing the first prog rock album.
Yeah,
And
it truly is. There's Mellotron sounds, and you mentioned A Day in the Life. Can we talk about those haunting strings, which
yeah,
I believe, and I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, this was an idea from either, I think it was Paul McCartney, where he just wanted some sort of crescendo. And by the way, this was not George Martin's idea. George Martin
yeah,
was kind of like against that. Like, are you sure? But you listen to it, and again, it's just like Day in the Life is like the apex. Like it's a prog suite.
yeah. It's
It's
genius.
it's beautiful, it's accessible, it's challenging, kind of
Yeah,
haunting.
yeah.
different moods and signatures in it.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
go from I read the news today, oh boy, to Paul's woke up, get out of
yeah.
it's
It
man,
goes from happiness to light and shade,
it-
and his bass tone is ridiculous. I think he
oh
used a Rick. He used a Rick, I think, on that album.
dude, you as a one of my I'm not a
One of
bass
the greatest bass tones is on Sergeant Pepper's.
on
It's so
Sergeant
deep. It's
Pepper.
so deep. It's such a
You,
deep
you
tone.
know where you hear it on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Oh my
It is
God.
stunning. Paul McCartney, what he did with the bass on that album. And yeah, it's just a perfect, yeah, prog rock masterpiece. And
Definitely.
not a coincidence that, for example, bands like Pink Floyd were listening very closely. They
Hmm.
end up recording in the same studio, Abbey Road studio, eventually with Dark
Yeah.
Side of the Moon. But yeah,
And
am I,
then you said distortion on the voice.
yep.
21st century schizoid man.
In a way, and again, not the distortion that on like Schizoid Man, but again, John Lennon was infamous for hating his own voice. So what he would try to do, hide it with like lots of effects. So, for example, when he would sing "Lucy in the Sky
Yeah, yeah.
with Diamonds," and he
You
had
you
that
would hear.
nasally voice
No,
like
no, no, no,
Getty,
no, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
like he double tracked it, like they sped
Yeah.
it up, like they were
Oh
genius.
yeah. Everything about that album, from the production, the engineering, obviously the concepts, the songs, the musicianship, the lyrics. Prague, number one Prague album
Yeah.
ever, Sergeant Pepper's. So if people didn't realize that, you learned something today. And I don't think anybody will disagree with us
Oh,
on
and
that.
it's fact you've indicated me because I was like, dude, that's like the first prog rock album, if anything. And
Yeah.
it ends up influencing also the Beach Boys with their Pet Sounds album.
Pet
Which, in a
Sounds.
way, it's an American, even though it's very more. Oh, and one more thing, before I forget. One of the reasons why Sergeant Pepper is so amazing, they took from Baroque music. Dude, pop music, no one did this. Like
No.
everybody followed either the old soul format or that Phil Spector sound that,
Yeah.
like very influenced by African American
Yeah.
sounds and sensibilities. Rock music was very 4/4, blues influence for the first time, Paul McCartney and John Lennon and George was already grabbing from Indian music.
Yeah.
These two, and John was already strange. He's like a Sid Barrett. But Paul McCartney started to grab from classical Baroque elements,
Bach. He was taken
like
from Bach.
Bach. And
And I'll give you examples. They're not, I don't know a song, but I just know I read or I seen a professor analyze one of the songs. And there's cadences in music. There's a five chord, which would say if you're in the key of C, you'd be on G, and then you go from G and you end the song on the five to the one, G to C. That's called a perfect authentic cadence. If you end it on the four chord, which is a real classical thing, and that's what they did. I don't know which album. They ended it on the four chord and they went to the C. That's the Amen cadence. That's called the plagal cadence. Amen. And they did that a lot on that album.
yeah,
So they were using classical forms. That's another thing I didn't mention. In prog rock, they use
yeah,
ELP. ELP used classical forms, AA, BA forms, symphonic symphony forms that an orchestra would use.
yeah,
The Beatles were kind of doing that. Keith Emerson studied Beethoven and Bach, even
dude.
heavier, Mussorgsky, and he would use the
Yeah.
symphony formula.
And I will say for like Sergeant Pepper though, nobody was doing this. Like the really
Nobody.
this is so revolutionary. And
Yeah.
what's even more fascinating is that the Beatles grew up as like a rock and roll outfit, loved, the rock and roll that was coming out of America. They were not trained musicians. So
No.
the fact that Paul McCartney, and by the way, now he was leading the Beatles. So if anything, what's funny? John loved old school rock. He's not a prog. John actually
Yeah.
would hate that.
Yeah.
George was kind of like giving that up and transcending with more spirituality into his
Yeah.
Indian.
Great point. Great
Ringo,
point.
Ringo is Ringo. But the
Yeah.
one that was responsible was Mr. Paul McCartney,
He's a genius. Yeah.
who, by the way, recently will tell Rush, you guys should tour. So again,
But
it's
he's still making genius.
I,
things happen.
no, Sir Paul McCartney, genius, and he's a
Yeah.
truly prog artist, if anything, because
So imagine this: the guy who invented prog is telling
you
the
can't ma-
the, the second wave of the greatest prog band in the world. You
you
got to call
can't
them the second wave.
yeah, you can't make this
A,
irony up.
a prog album that he invented. He's telling Rush 2112 they invented prog and the second coming of prog rock, hard rock metal to go and tour. That's insane.
It's like things coming back full
And I
circle.
bet you he doesn't know that. If I told Paul McCartney you invented the first prog album with
No,
Sgt. Pepper's, he'd
no.
be like, "Bloke, you're insane." And you just told Rush, the greatest, one of the second comings of the greatest prog rock bands or prog metal bands, that to go on tour. You're a genius. What are you talking about? He wouldn't even get this concept.
Dude, no, Paul McCartney's just next level. But he
Yeah,
truly was the prog soul in the Beatles.
yeah,
Sadly, it'll end up causing them to implode, right? Because Paul McCartney, and it's like
yeah.
Roger Waters when he started to take over Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah.
He kind of changed their sound, which is that's a whole nother story. But yeah, Sergeant Pepper, I considered, I think one of the now technically not progressive rock, but the birth of what prog rock would become, like of the concept album.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And also McCartney's influence on the prog rock bass players.
Hmm.
You listen to his counter melodies when he's singing, his choice in notes, and his rhythmic approach. You hear that in Chris Squire. It's insane. You hear that in John Wetton. You hear that in Geddy Lee.
Hmm.
You know, the guy is in every level, a songwriter, a bass player, an arranger, everything. Paul McCartney is a genius and the father of a prog rock album.
Hmm.
I mean, please comment on that, people. We'd love to hear your opinion on
Yeah,
this.
common. For our prog rock fans, what do you think? I know that's a might be a hot take, but
But
definitely
it's the truth. It's
one
the
of the
truth.
originator Beatles. And by the way, that's not counting their influence on pop music. Oh my
Oh,
God.
oh yeah, yeah. We could do.
And
Forget
rock
about it.
music.
Forget about it. Um, okay, so we covered that. Now, in a day in a life is like the first prog rock song. The next prehistoric prog is the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin, 1967.
Yeah, and again, that's another example of technically not prog, but what they were doing was revolutionary.
Yeah, it was a long song. They had strings and a mellotron in it. They had strings, they had these lush harmonies. So they were doing things that were proggy. It was out of the box. It was definitely out of the box. So Moody Blues are up there for
Yeah,
prehistoric prog. Procol Harum, a whiter shade of pale. You know that song?
yeah, I heard of it.
It's very classical influenced. I believe Robin Trower was in it. I don't know if he played on that album, the great Robin Trower. Um, so that's also because it has a classical influence. I give him Prague. I give him
Yeah,
prehistoric
yeah,
Prague.
yeah.
And then I'm going to throw Pink Floyd in here. They pioneered the psychedelic experience of rock. Sid Barrett, Piper at the Gates of
Yeah.
Dawn.
Now, Cheech, I have to say, have you listened to Piper at the Gates of Dawn? Have you
I went
listened?
through a period a couple of years ago. I was obsessed with Sid
Okay.
Barrett. I listened to that album. It almost made me want to go crazy.
No, no, no. Okay. No,
And there's a
no,
certain point
let
where
me
you
no.
you have to stop listening
No,
to
no,
it.
no. Let me tell you, it's a weird album. It's probably one of the most weirdest things. Like it's funny because if you're used to like Dark Side, Pink Floyd, or Wish You Were Here, but you put that on, you're gonna be like, what the hell am I listening to?
Yeah.
The songs like Lucifer, Sam, I say Astronomy Domine, Interstellar Overdrive, which has a killer
Mhm.
riff, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But it's like a 9 minute like freak out jam at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like a schizoid. And even the album cover is fractured. So I would wonder if Sid Barrett, this was a reference to his like mental state, like
Oh
that
yeah.
kaleidoscope, but
Life is art. Life is a reflection of art. You can hear what was going on in his mind
yeah,
on that album
he has a
because
he has a pastoral song about a gnome.
you know, as a psychologist, you would know this theory. Somebody told me this one time. the more acid you take, it's like getting a rubber band and pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And the more acid you take, you pull that rubber band, and that's your mind. Your mind is the rubber band. You keep taking acid and acid, that rubber band's going to snap, and that's your mind as a metaphor.
Mm.
That's what happened to Sid Barrett.
Yeah, he ends up getting his brain fried because of the
Yeah.
acid he was taking, which was popular in the psychedelic scene.
He snapped, and he was gone for 30 years, and he did come out with an album in the 90s.
Hmm.
So he took a long break to just get back to normal.
Yeah.
That guy was fried. And
But
it's sad because imagine but at the same time, Pink Floyd would not be Pink Floyd.
well, it's fascinating because Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Okay, so like yes, it could be technically progressive, but it's definitely, and again, I think David Bowie, I think he must have stumbled upon it, for example.
Of
Like
course he did, yeah.
it's that it will be called space rock eventually, but it's like that psychedelic, jammy rock that they became really famous. At the same time, Barrett was a weird genius songwriter where his topics were like out there and
Oh
no
yeah,
doubt influenced by his acid LSD intake,
yeah.
which influenced his like worldview. And what's funny is that the rest of the band kind of didn't follow this. And when they lost Sid Barrett, they were like, "What do we do?" And they had a crisis for a while in terms of what they were
Yeah.
releasing. Like, well,
Yeah.
I guess we'll just try this. They kind of began experimenting. Again, it
Yeah.
eventually it'll lead them to
And
create.
they became one of the biggest bands of the 70s. I
Right.
mean, so it's almost like a John Rutsey, not to bring up, we always got to bring up Rush, but he's like the John Rutsey, you
Mhm.
know, excuse me, of Pink Floyd. If he stayed in Pink Floyd, they would not have the songs. He couldn't sing "I Wish You Were Here." You know what I mean? He couldn't
No,
do that.
no. And it's funny, Sid Barrett sings from like a child perspective. Like he has this one song, Matilda Mother, which is fantastic, but it's
Yeah,
weird because then Sid Barrett will sing from like the perspective of a child. Like that's the best way I can describe Sid Barrett. Like he sings from like if he was a kid.
yeah,
Like, and I love Matilda Mother because like there was a man who ruled the land. You see, Richard Wright, who's famous with his, backing vocals.
yeah, yeah,
Like he
yeah.
starts singing, and then you see, Sid Barrett come in with this strange. It sounds like a kid's song. Like it's
It
so hard
does,
to
like a
describe.
nursery rhyme
A
almost. Yeah,
nursery rhyme. That's the
yeah, I know that
even
song very
Piper at the
well.
Gates of Dawn. That title was
I
taken.
love I love that album, but after a while, it does get to you. Like I'll be honest, even if you listen to like Crimson too, you keep listening to a lot of Crimson, your brain starts getting fried because it's so out there.
It
There was a
is.
period when I was playing, with Viking Superstar, I was listening to Crimson all the time, and I was just like, whoa, my brain is starting like this stuff is so heavy. Zappa too.
It has
If
that
you listen to
weird ability to change your brain chemistry.
it's magical. It really will.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
will
It's
change your brain
mind
chemistry.
bending. Yep, yep.
It does something to your emotional, your auditory mind. The what is it? The what part of the brain? It does something to your brain. I forget. Not your amygdala.
Hippocampus,
No, what's the other one?
cerebellum,
Nope. There's one more.
prefrontal cortex,
One more. I think.
medusa, corpus.
I can't think. I can't think.
Mm.
But it's when you hear something and it makes you think. It's that part of the brain. It
That's
creates.
prefrontal cortex,
I guess that's what it is.
thinking
But
part. Yeah.
yeah. Um. Anyway, so okay, we'll just leave that there for Pink Floyd. It's
Hmm.
because it's insane. Then there's another band called The Nice, young Keith Emerson. He used a lot of classical influences on the album. It's called The Thoughts of Emerald Dave Jack. So you have Pipers at the Gates of Dawn, and then you have, Procol Harum's first album, and then you have Nights in White Satin, and you have the Beatles' Sergeant Pepper. Those are prehistoric prog. I can't think of any more. If you could think of um, any of our viewers out there want to post prehistoric, anything before the Canterbury scene, if you know what we're talking about.
Mhm.
You know, now do you even want to get into the Canterbury scene, or you want to
Let's
like,
let's end part one here.
yeah, because like,
Let's close the book chapter.
yeah, because the Canterbury scene is a whole thing
Yeah.
on its
So
own,
we'll talk about what that was.
And what's interesting, just to get back into the Prague for a second, just
Yeah.
to, and we'll end around 8 o'clock. It was almost like a baseball team or a football team where they would trade members. So
Yeah.
like, like King Crimson,
Dude, Green Crimson is famous for that. And
so
yes.
yeah, so Bill Bruford would leave Yes to play
And
with King Crimson
and let
for
me
a
just add
while,
Genesis in there too, but yeah.
you know, and then I'm trying to think. It was who was it from another prog band that Greg Lake was also in King Crimson. So you have Emerson Lake. These four bands they're all tied. Maybe not Genesis so much, but Crimson, Yes, and ELP. They're all tied. Greg Lake was in King Crimson, and then you have Bill Bruford, who was in Yes, also was in King Crimson.
Hmm.
And it gets there's like they're sharing.
Yeah.
They're leaving one band to go to another prog band. Bill Bruford left Yes at the height of their career. I think it was close to the edge. He left to join King Crimson.
Crazy.
There was an album before Red. I can't think of it, but then he put Red out with them, and that's a trio. That King Crimson's Red, that is the epitome of prog metal. That's the beginning of like heavy, heavy metal.
Hmm.
Like Sabbath started the doom. King Crimson made metal. Robert Fripp, I don't know what's up with that guy.
Yeah, Robert Fripp is a genius.
He's like a Zappa. He quit music to become you find this interesting, to want to study. He was taking his vows to be a priest.
Yeah, he's
Like,
fascinating.
he
Yeah.
is so twisted, that guy.
Robert Fripp is and he ends up also playing guitar on David Bowie's albums too. On his album the one that has Heroes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
him. That's him, Robert Fripp, all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, and and Crimson, they did a all through the 80s they played, but they were never really they never got.
Those that are into prog will love Kim Crimson, right? Like everything. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but Robert Fripp is a beast. Like he's a
And he's not talked about as much. I mean,
no. Well, it's funny because King Crimson, first of all, is forgotten. I don't think, and
yeah.
it's funny you mentioned these albums after in the court of the Crimson King. No one talks about their after albums. Like
No,
you,
Red. I mean, Red is a popular one, and and they never toured with
but
Red, but
but in
Red.
the popular consciousness, nobody talks about their
No,
after
no.
albums. The only reason why King Crimson is known is because of the influence of that debut album. And like I said, Kanye West famous popularized him in the sampling of
Yeah,
the 21st Century Schizo Man line.
yeah. A band that I didn't mention that should be in there too is Wishbone Ash.
Hmm.
Um, they were proggy, uh, but at the same time, they had the folkness to them. And then Martin Turner, the singer, oh my God, what a voice and what a bass player. But yet at the same time, they would go with the trends too. They would be bluesy, they'd be a little bluesy, they'd be a little proggy. So are they truly a prog band? They had an album called Argus, which
Hmm.
is a true prog album. But then they dabbled away from it, so I have to mention them. And John Wetton, this is a funny story, was in Wishbone Ash.
Wow.
He did Number the Brave with them in 1980.
Hmm.
And he said, I got a bunch of songs. And they said, we don't want your songs. We write our own songs. You just play bass and you sing one or two songs. And you know what songs he had?
Asia.
The whole album. So Wishbone Ash could have been the next Asia,
That
but
is
they
insane.
decided to just be like, no, we write our own stuff. And John Wetton, who's a genius, a musical genius, Wishbone Ash, a musical genius, but musical pop genius. Wishbone Ash never made it in the States because they never had a hit song. They had a song called The Phoenix that got here, but in Argus, but they never, and John Wetton had Asia to give to them, but it wasn't meant to be.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm exhausted, man. This was like a
Nah, this was
prime.
this was epic. Yeah. No,
I mean,
dude, we covered a lot of ground. And then
yeah,
part two, we'll get into the Canterbury scene and the
yeah,
development of which is gonna lead to how
yeah.
Court of the Crimson King got even
Oh yeah.
that.
This everything we talked about is prehistoric Prague. That's going to lead up to, and
You know
if
what's
you
funny
want
too?
to,
Before I forget, I had this thought. Progressive rock is mind soul changing music.
oh yeah,
You
yeah,
made
it's a,
that great point, and no doubt influenced by like Sid Barrett and his intake of like I don't want to take acid. I'm good, but when I listen to like you said, listening to like in the Hall of the Crimson King, in a way, does make you go crazy
it
because
was I thought of the part of the brain, auditory.
the auditory system.
Yeah, that's where music goes to your brain, and I studied this and how it makes you think as a player, as a listener,
Mm.
whether it's Little Uzi or King Crimson, how it makes you feel. And it's amazing how different types of music make people feel differently.
Well,
And
it's funny. I have that. I don't know. You probably have this. It's like you listen again. That's why it's sad because most people don't listen to music this way.
no, no,
But
not anymore.
you have to feel like when I first listened to first of all when I listened to in the Court of the Crimson King every track I was like, and then finally you reach the final track and I'm there like, and I must look like a madman. I'm just like,
You look like the dude on the cover.
no, seriously, because you hear it sounds like you're dying, like you're in heaven and you're encountering something sublime. Like it's
Yeah.
insane. Like
It's almost like was written through that, like a force wrote through the like black. I would say Black Sabbath. Like there was a force that wrote through them.
yeah, yeah,
There was a fifth member, and Crimson was just like some force itself wrote through the band on
yeah,
that album. And that
yeah.
album, I mean, ask any musician after 1970, they're going to tell you that's the album. I know Roger Glover and I had conversations about this when I met him at the Temple. He said, "Oh yeah, 21st Century Schizoid Man, that's the album. That's the album. That's the song that did it for everybody. Everybody wanted to be like that. That's why everybody got heavy. Think about it. Nobody was that heavy at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Zeppelin was coming out, but they weren't that heavy. I mean, this is heavy. That riff in 21st Century Schizoid Man, how did he think of it? How did he come up with that much distortion? It's so heavy.
Hmm.
And it's in C sharp, which is a very strange key. And he
Mm.
used whole tone scales and he used these like diminished scales and modes that made him so different. Nobody was doing that. Avant-garde people were. A whole tone scale is every note is a whole tone step away from each other. It's a very unique sounding scale. I actually started to incorporate it since I've been researching this, and it's very John Cage. That's the guy. That's a guy in the '60s who was still doing avant-garde stuff, or maybe '50s. Forgive me on my dates. Maybe '50s or early '60s, where he was doing that avant-garde kind of stuff. I would compare him to Salvatore Dali in painting in that
Mm.
world. Yeah. Crimson reminds me of Dali, like things melting. You know what I mean? Like his artwork.
Yeah, yeah, it's surreal.
Like if you were to put like Dali c- artwork, it would be King Crimson's music
Oh yeah, no
to the
doubt.
eyes.
No, and just
Crimson to
no,
the
and listening to the experience, like looking at a Dolly painting, like you don't know how to feel. You're like, what?
That's what Crimson does to you. Visually, Dolly does that, and Crimson does that to you when you hear it. Nothing in the world like King Crimson. And we,
Hmm.
it's like, and it's unfortunate that they never got. They're always underground. They never
Yeah.
because people can't handle it. And Robert Fripp doesn't give a shit. He's like Zappa. Like like Zappa didn't have any top 10 hits really. You know what I mean? Zappa wasn't going for the mainstream. Fripp is a lot like Frank Zappa, where
Mhm.
they're just doing. I mean, Zappa's prog, and I'm not going to put him in this episode because he's considered to me North American prog. This is all
Mhm.
English prog. Because let's face it, prog rock started in England.
Yeah.
That's where it started because the greatest composers are all most of them are from Europe. Let's just say Europe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, not all English, but Europe is where, Germany, um, Vienna, Mozart, Bach was German, Beethoven, I believe was where was he was German, Beethoven?
German, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Austrian, but yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
German.
Yeah. So like that area, Europe, that's where it's all coming from.
Mhm.
So English, thank you for starting rock and roll. We started rock and roll in America with the blues, but
Yeah, the
you guys,
Brits, I always say the Brits perfected it.
they perfected it on the next level, like that.
Yeah,
So
and just listen to In the Court of the Crimson King song. I mean, especially once that chorus hit, it's like, and I love his vocals, no distortion, but the way he sings like In the Court of the Crimson King,
and,
ah,
and let me tell you,
ah, like and then it hits you with his and then you're
let me
listening, you're like, you feel like there's something deep, profound, even if you don't understand the lyrics.
yeah,
It's like it hits you and it makes you like think about life. Like
like Viking Superstar, we did Red off the album. You know how hard it is to play King Crimson. Like
I can
I
only
can't even.
imagine.
I mean, I also did long distance run around with the band. Just
That's
that
hard
bass
too.
line.
I love that song, and I can only imagine.
I mean, that line as a bass player, I remember I felt my hand was gonna break off. And we did Passage to Bangkok. Sounds easy. Good luck. Good luck with that one. Good luck trying to play Passage to Bangkok. All the subtleties and syncopations and everything. We did a lot of that. We did a lot of proggy stuff, but I remember learning that Crimson song, the beginning. I remember being like, "Oh, it's all whole tone scales and modes," and I'm like, "What a genius, friggin' genius, man!" And the coolest thing, John Wetton is doing so many. Listen to Red. That's all I could say.
Yeah,
He
Red is a
Jo-
masterpiece, and
John Wetton is he's hitting these notes on the 19th fret of a Fender P bass in Red. It's just he's bending it. He's bending these notes. That's an underrated bass player. When we get to the bass player, our favorite bass player, I'm really torn between John Wetton and Chris Squire at this point.
yeah,
I really am. I really am. But I'm not gonna say who I
well,
go with. But it's like
yeah. No, and just speaking of King Crimson Red, Starless. I mean, we talk about
oh
life-changing
my
song.
God.
I mean, yeah, King Crimson is fascinating, and they're definitely one of the heights of, and we'll get there. So for our audience out there, in case you're lost, but
But now King Crimson, Red could have been on the radio. Not Red, but Starless and other songs could have been on the radio. Those songs could have been played on the radio. Some
yeah,
of them.
which again, it's weird. King Crimson, the only ones that know King Crimson are like the underground, prog rock fans, Rush
Yes.
fans, obviously,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and even Rush themselves, will be influenced.
Of course,
But
Russia's
it's funny
influence.
because Genesis had a more, wide audience than Crimson, in my opinion. I think just
I think Crimson used the diminished scale too much, and it was too dark and too
it's too
weird.
much. It's too much. Yeah, because for the general audience, they can't handle it.
And they give you the sound of the diminished kind of sound. It's like when Sabbath plays the intro to Black Sabbath, that boom,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
boom.
And you're talking about Froggy's on there.
That flat five is what King Crimson based their career on. The
I
flat
know.
five. If
Those
you
people can't
understand,
handle it.
no, it's like so. Robert Fripp.
it's only for like the high cerebral crowd. That's the thing. And that's what's great about King Crimson. If you meet, I feel like if you meet a King Crimson fan, man, that's gonna be a good friend right there.
Oh yeah, yeah, because there's not too many people. I mean, is he still alive, Robert Fripp? I don't even know.
That's a good question. Let me actually find out. And then I think we'll kind of wrap up there.
Yeah, yeah, this has been a journey. I'm gonna sleep well.
This is, true to prog rock's true to prog rock's, epicness. Nice still alive. 79.
Yeah,
And he's still playing guitar.
yeah, amazing. And it wasn't the coolest looking guy. He didn't give a shit about image.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, before I knew what he looked like, when I saw him, I was like, what the? That's Robert Fripp?
Yeah,
You talk
and
about a guy not caring.
I mean,
No, I'm not saying that he didn't care what he dressed,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but he wasn't like, like
He looked like a professor in a college.
he does. He does.
Greg Lake looked like a rock star.
Yeah, yeah. And
You
even
know.
some members in Yes, like they started dressing up on stage and having that,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, the cape or whatever. But thanks to the temple and thank you, Lucky Man. Thank you, Keith Emerson, for that. God rest your soul, man. I can't believe Keith is gone. I mean, so sad,
Hmm.
so tragic what happened
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that man. Oh God, I was sick that day when I heard that.
Hmm.
Um, but thank you, Temple, for they have a great sound system. Hearing that Moog, I was in the bathroom taking the piss, and they go, I'm like, I gotta fucking run upstairs and tell Manny we got to do a prog episode, you
That's what
know?
I always they've been on the station. I'm not sure if they changed it at all. So
No, it's been on there.
I heard it. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
wow. It's like an easy AM Gold yacht rock
It's
station.
yeah. Why would that be on it though? It's some weird songs. A lot of Linda Ronstadt,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Which is so cool. And our girl Phoebe Snow, love her voice. It's like, but Joni, of course, is on
Oh
there
yeah, you were mentioning why did you mention Phoebe Snow?
because that song came on right after Lucky Man, and I'm like, wait, is this Joni Mitchell? And then I was done. It sounds like Joni Mitchell. And I checked with my phone. It was Phoebe Snow, and I'm like, oh my God, what a beautiful
Yeah, I
voice.
completely forgot about her.
I think she might. I don't know much about her. I just know that song is gorgeous, and she's very influenced by Joni Mitchell.
Hmm?
You
Yeah.
know. But yeah, thank you, Temple, again, for bringing the spirit of Keith Emerson to us.
Shout out
That's
to
what
that yeah, shout out to the altar corner we got.
it's an altar. It's a metal altar at this point.
It's gonna be in an altar. It's gonna go down in history as a sacred spot.
We should maybe I'm gonna have a meeting tomorrow with the uh the priest, the high priest, and say maybe we should start an engravement thing and
I
work the
know.
engravement on that table,
Think
because
about it, man. Like those priests, no one's gonna know them, but they're gonna know that corner because of us.
and they're gonna know,
Dude, and think about it. That corner is known because of us, because we
yeah,
talked too much and people got mad.
they're gonna be long forgotten, and this
Oh yeah.
podcast is gonna live on forever and
Oh
ever and
yeah.
ever.
Oh yeah. I might have to cut this. I might have to cut this. So hold
uh,
on. You know what I might do? I'm gonna see if I can put a bleep sound.
anyway, I don't think anyone will get this far. I
No,
know,
no,
I know
let's be
Joe will.
honest. No, they saw prog rock. These guys,
Joe will.
these guys in their 4 hour episodes of prog.
Because you know what? We are prog rock. We are proud
Oh,
to
dude,
be.
if I were to start, I'll be honest, if I were to start like a prog rock band, it would be like prog rock. What did you mention that D diminish? What did you say? The
Oh,
concur.
the diminished scale.
See, that would be me.
Yeah, we're a whole tone scale and a diminished scale. Like, we're about the art. We're Robert Fripp
Oh
of the
yeah, I don't
podcast.
play. Like I teach to change, and like I
Yeah.
want to change and take things
So
seriously.
if anything,
I don't want to be a seller like Bruno Mars or like
oh no, no. If anything, I hope people got the prehistoric journey of prog rock, the meaning of prog rock, what goes into prog rock, how it started, and some of these bands, the big four that we're going to be deep diving into: Genesis, King Crimson, Yes and ELP, and this was a lot about Crimson, the founders of prog
Which,
rock.
which next episode we're gonna go into
Oh
detail.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna get into all that, and go out and hopefully it has a revival. There's some great prog rock bands out there: Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, Fate's Warning, prog metal, prog metal.
There's actually in popular music, well, I shouldn't say popular music, there is some prog influence albums,
Oh
which
yeah, it's out there.
the influence is there, you know.
The
Anything
prob
that's progressive.
the problem is there's no movement. You know what I mean? Like it just reels now. Back in 1969, there was a whole English movement, you know. If we started a prog movement in Greenwich right now, we got like 30 bands.
Like a scene.
People would be like, "Wow, prog is coming back." But that's not happening anywhere because people aren't into it, you know. And that's what needs to happen more, I think. Like grunge Seattle, Motley Crue LA, you know, San Francisco, all the Grateful Dead, all these great bands who came out of there, Moby Grape, all these great bands. Then you don't see it anymore. Where is it happening? You got Reels, great band. Zoop, I might have just seen the new King Crimson,
Mhm.
awesome, and I just flashed them by. That's why there's too much exposure out there, man. I don't know, but anyway, this was a
Yeah.
journey.
As if you're
This was
still
a Sid,
wait,
this
let
is
me just
a Sid Barrett acid trip.
oh yeah. If for okay, so for our audience out there, if you stuck with us, please give this video a like. Subscribe to our channel. We want to make this channel grow and like, share it if you love what you saw. Comment
Yeah.
below. You can comment any and your opinions, do you disagree with us? Do you agree with some of our,
Yeah.
selections for like the prehistoric prog? And of course, your opinions on King Crimson, your experience of them.
Oh yeah, who's your favorite prog rock band? And
And
how,
who's your favorite prog rock band? Yeah,
yeah,
I would love to hear your opinion. And again,
and
subscribe, like this video if you're awesome.
yeah.
And this has been part one. So many more parts to come because we haven't even
And
talked about Prague itself.
we're only on page, if you can see that, I don't know, page 3 out of 22. You know, what is it? Dissertation when you're in college?
Yeah, thesis or just this is like the thesis.
I think I'm gonna be a doctor on prog rock at the end of this because I've written I finished it today, 32 pages. You know,
I know Silky Joe is gonna have his mind blown by this episode.
this was a great one, you
Yeah.
know.
I'm gonna release it ASAP and I want him to watch it. Also, I know he texted. You text him or call him and tell him that we answered his question live.
That was a lot. That was amazing. I gotta tell him to do that more often in the middle of a show.
Yeah.
Bring
Middle
it.
of a taping.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Nanu, it has been a pleasure, Manner, and
Likewise.
look forward to our next episode. And I'll be seeing you this weekend, probably.
Yes, sir.
Um, we won't go there.
No, no, no. Well, if I go that corner is just gonna flow with
Yeah,
magic
it's gonna.
inspiration.
God knows well, I'm working on the Christmas one that's
Dude,
coming up.
I'm so if any Cheech knows this, but I get excited for Prague, Beatles, Rush, and Christmas.
Yeah, that's gonna
That's
be
gonna be
exciting. No,
exciting. But
so
all right, Cheech, I'll see you in the court of the Crimson King.
exactly. Good ending. All right, man.
Have a good
Peace
night,
out.
brother.
Take care.
2, 3, 4. Cheech and Manny Show.